Good morning.
Morning. We're just about ready to begin. Our first candidate is here. I'm going to promote them up. It is current Mayor London Breed, um, co-chairs Barnes and Alioto Pier. Uh, any introductory logistical reminders before we get started and kick it off?
Yes, I will be starting it off today. I just want to say welcome to everybody to the 2024 interview for the DCCC in the mayor's race Sunday morning. Just a very quick reminder that today will be a little different than yesterday in that the interviews will run for 15 minutes as opposed to 10 minutes. It'll start with a 2-minute opening, 11-minute Q&A, and a 2-minute close. And please just remember that if you have a question for the candidate, to please put it in the chat. So in the Zoom chat, you have to write stack, and then we will be calling people first come, first serve. I'd like to introduce Carrie Barnes, who is my co-chair, along with Lanier Coles, who will be keeping time today.
Thank you. I'm honored to serve as your co-chair of the endorsement committee, Michaela. It's been wonderful to be your partner in crime, and I'm looking forward to talking to the mayoral candidates today for those who are seeking endorsement of the San Francisco Democratic Party.
Thanks, Carrie. And then Lanier, can you just sort of wave so people know who you are? Morning.
With that, we are at 9 a.m. Without further ado, I'll let you all kick it off with our first candidate.
Great. Thank you, Bobak.
Oh, I forgot. I need to pin the relevant people to the. My apologies. I forgot to do that. Pin 1, pin 2. Lanier, are you timekeeping today?
Yes.
Pin 3, and where's our candidate, Madam Mayor? Pin 4. All right. 2 co-chairs, timekeeper, and candidate box is pinned. Please proceed.
Okay, great. Thank you, Bobak. Welcome, Madam Mayor. It is nice to have you with us here this morning to kick this off. As you know, the interview will last 15 minutes. You will have a 2-minute opening, followed by 11 minutes of Q&A, and then time permitting, a 2-minute close. And the clock will start when you begin your remarks. And with that, I would like to welcome you here today and hand over the floor.
Thank you, Michaela, and thank you all for your work on behalf of our Democratic Party. I'm excited about the new energy and the direction you are taking this important work. Born and raised in San Francisco, I've dedicated my entire adult life to serving our communities and improving the city's public safety, housing and transportation, and quality of life. I led the city through the greatest public health crisis in 100 years, instituted the first COVID shutdown in the country, and saved thousands of lives. As a result, San Francisco had the lowest COVID mortality rate of any major city in the country. Unfortunately, in our city, some of my opponents remained silent during COVID or left the city altogether. I was here working from my apartment or the command center every single day because I always have our city's back no matter what. I have brought crime to the lowest level in 10 years. It is now below pre-pandemic levels. I've sent a clear and consistent message that there will be consequences for those who break the law. As a result of my leadership, San Francisco has seen results, and I will continue this forward momentum. Car break-ins are down 54% this year, and property crime is down 34%. But I will not stop till every person feels safe. No mayor or candidate is more pro-housing than I am. I have changed San Francisco's reputation as the city of no to the city of yes, and I have implemented policies to reduce fees, eliminate barriers, overcome bureaucratic processes, and build the new homes we deserve. I'm leading the state with my Housing for All plan to build 82,000 new homes while investing over $1 billion in affordable housing. Our street homeless count is the lowest it has been in 10 years. I helped over 15,000 people exit homelessness. I've increased housing slots by 50%, expanded shelter beds by 66%, and I cleared all the large tent encampments on our streets. We are creating new multi-use, vibrant 24/7 downtown neighborhood. My 30 by 30 plan will bring 30,000 new residents and students downtown by 2030, filling empty storefronts through my Vacant to Vibrant program and first year free, waiving city fees for the first year for new small businesses around the city, attracting new businesses by eliminating fees, offering free rent, and other incentives. First city in the state to create a new entertainment zone across the city, allowing restaurants and bars to sell alcoholic beverages for consumption during an outdoor event. Harrington's is going to be even livelier than it is now. And I am dedicated to providing cleaning crews and ambassadors to work alongside our public safety officials, and they are already doing the work. My climate action plan is addressing climate change from all angles: housing, transportation, and land use, energy, buildings, zero waste, and a healthy ecosystem. Because of my work, San Francisco has a clean roadmap to become an all-electric, carbon neutral city. As the first African-American woman and only woman to serve as mayor, I am excited about all that we will be able to accomplish in my second term, and I will stand up to anyone who attacks our San Francisco values, protecting LGBTQ and trans rights, protecting a woman's right to choose. And as a lifelong Democrat, I would be honored to have the endorsement of our Democratic Party, and I look forward to working together in support of our neutral priorities.
Michaela, you're muted. Michaela.
Oh, I was muted. Sorry about that. Thank you very much for your response. In light of the Grants Pass ruling, how is the city's approach to homelessness going to change?
Well, it's going to change because now we can enforce sit, lie, and camping laws that unfortunately were a little bit more complicated to enforce in the past. We were prevented from doing so. I think what's exciting about this ruling, because, and I want to be very clear, because a lot of folks have said we are trying to criminalize homelessness. And the fact is, at the DMV location where there are 5 individuals who are refusing services, over a 3-month time, we had 100 touches. And so once we are able to implement Grants Pass, we will not feel obligated to offer alternatives as it relates to shelter or services. And we will potentially cite people, and those citations will become progressive and may lead to a misdemeanor. The fact is, when we are offering services, because we do lead with services first, our goal is to get people help, to get them treatment, to get them support, but we can no longer allow people to just live on the streets of San Francisco if we have a place for them to go. So we are in the process of getting all of our clarification together. And the other thing is, we won't be able to change our bag and tag policy. Folks think, oh, we should have already started. Well, we have city employees. We have meet and confer. We have to make sure that these requirements don't deviate from what their responsibilities already are. We have to do a bag and tag policy, and we have to make sure that the courts here are, that they clarify what they expect out of the city so that we can begin the process of training our city employees so that we don't end up in a situation where there are numerous lawsuits. We have had to pay $10,000 to $20,000 per person for not appropriately implementing a confusing bag and tag policy. So what we are doing is setting the groundwork to do this thing right and began being a lot more aggressive to clear the streets of San Francisco and to enforce the law beginning in August. We expect to be able to do that. And what you can expect to see is more clearer and more cleaner streets. And just for the record, when I became mayor, I inherited a significant number of encampments. And more importantly, encampments were 58% higher than they are today. And we have been working hard despite a pandemic, despite emptying all of our shelter beds during the pandemic because of congregate living. We are still making progress, and this is going to provide us a tool to do even more.
Great. Thank you very much for that response. Carrie Barnes.
Yes, I have a question. Good morning, Mayor. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Several of your opponents are proposing similar solutions to what feels like intractable problems facing our city. So really what we're talking about here is a leadership style and approach. And what strikes me is that you're the only female running. So I'd like to know how that makes you, or do you believe that makes you uniquely qualified to serve San Francisco at this moment in time?
Well, I will say that many of the people who are running against me, as I'm sure you all may be able to attest to, are basically talking about doing things that I've already done, talking about doing things that I'm in the process of also doing. And there is not a real difference between what they are talking about. I mean, there's a few things, but ultimately, the biggest difference is I'm actually implementing it and have been for some time. And we are starting to see notable change. And the fact is, the data reflects what is starting to be the reality of what people in San Francisco are starting to feel. And so their arguments and their criticisms are null and void. And I think the biggest difference here, yeah, there is as a woman, as mayor, I mean, I have a man who's a chief of staff, and there are people who have not even had direct conversations with me and choose to pretty much only communicate with my chief of staff. And that is something throughout this campaign in terms of, it is definitely very noticeable in terms of my focuses and my policies on, for example, my ballot initiative for women's right to choose and to make sure that it's protected here in San Francisco, and that we're able to post signage in those places that are crisis pregnancy centers that are lying to patients. And we have a number of real challenging federal laws that are cracking down, setting up the resources necessary to be aggressive in tackling many of these problems. I think the biggest difference, again, is that I'm actually implementing all this and they're talking about it. And then I think it's, I mean, being a woman, of course, I mean, all of the women here, I'm sure can attest to, just sometimes some of the challenges of being a woman in public office. But, I will say that I have never let that get in the way of working hard, doing the job, multitasking, and being there for this city and doing whatever it takes to get the job done. And my track record, I'm hoping, will demonstrate what my capabilities are. But more importantly, many of the things that I'm proposing for the future are gonna continue to allow our city to become better and safer and rise.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Member Akbar.
All right. Good morning, Mayor Breed. How are you doing this morning?
Good, thank you.
All right. As I was reviewing your questionnaire, I noticed that there was not much about substance use. And being a member of the recovering community, I'd like to know, what have you done? What are you currently doing? And what do you plan to do about substance use and in San Francisco?
Well, thank you for that question, Cedric, because that has been something that has always been important to me. And, honestly, my feelings about this have evolved over the years, because even though I grew up in public housing where crack and heroin were, I mean, especially crack, like really watching it firsthand and living in it firsthand, I've seen it devastate my community. And I thought that was the worst of it until fentanyl was introduced to San Francisco. And what I have seen in terms of the number of overdose deaths and the challenges that people have has been very much clearly problematic. It's not just affecting San Francisco, it's infecting the entire country. One of the most deadliest things that all of us are experiencing right now. And so I went to the people who I know have the most experience, not the experts, not the clinicians, not the advocates. I went to former drug dealers and former drug users for advice on how to combat this policy. And as I'm sure you are aware, we've been able to not only focus on harm reduction, but focus on abstinence-based solutions that were never a part of the public health agenda, and invested over $20 million in 7 new programs that meet people where they are, because we know it's not a one size fits all. I worked with you and others on Proposition F. And you know what bothered me the most about Proposition F, where we say, if you want treatment, if you want money from the city, you need to be in treatment. What bothered me the most is a lot of folks, it passed by the voters, but a lot of people had a lot to say. But did they talk to people who were recovering addicts? Did they talk to people who understood what it felt like to live in those kinds of situations? That didn't happen very much during this process. I'm glad it passed, and I'm glad it's a part of our solution. And we have to continue to make the right investments and stop being the enabler. I believe in compassion, but I also believe in tough love. And that's a lot of what we've done with our resources and with our change in direction from mostly harm reduction to accountability, because that definitely has to be a part of the solution, which is what I hear time and time again, especially from the recovery community. And I appreciate the work that we have done and will continue to do together to move this forward.
Great. Thank you, Madam Mayor. With that, a 2-minute conclusion.
Oh my goodness, that went by real fast.
It went
I have
by
so
really
much more
fast.
to say.
I can give you another question if you want one, but
you guys are serious about this time. Goodness. But I'll just start by saying, I'm a sitting mayor, so I have a long track record and a whole bunch of stuff to say, in addition to everything that I'm trying to propose for the future. But thank you for the opportunity for the talk this morning. I'm a proud lifelong Democrat and proud to be a former member of the DCCC. I've served as a delegate to our state for many years. I campaigned across California and in other states for Democratic candidates and President Obama. I stood in below zero temperatures as he kicked off his campaign for president. Now, that's no small feat for a California girl. I made calls with DCCC members in other states to elect Democrats. I helped raise resources to help people in California travel to some of the battleground states. I'm proud of the work that I've consistently done to support the Democratic Party, working with community-based organizations to register voters and to turn out voters, and especially folks in the African-American community. And I'm excited to travel as a delegate to the convention next month, to stand on the convention floor with my fellow Democrats and pledge our delegates to our next president. Here in San Francisco, the mayor's race is a big opportunity to engage younger voters who don't typically vote in off-election years. We have an opportunity to register new voters, not as decline the state, but as Democrats. So let's give them something to feel excited about. And I'm excited to engage them on the issues that they care most about, like choice and the environment, which are under attack nationally. That's why I placed the Reproductive Freedom Act on the ballot, and I hope I can count on your support. This is not only essential legislation to protect the right to an abortion and reproductive freedom, but it also sends a strong message nationwide that San Francisco will always stand up for women's rights, for trans rights, for LGBTQ rights. I did it when Trump was president before, and demonstrated that we were not letting San Francisco get pushed around. And I'm prepared to do it now, worst case scenario, but I am praying that doesn't happen, because we saw the threat to our civil liberties on display every day last week at the Republican convention. And while I'm running for my own reelection, I will also be working with you to ensure we elect our Democratic nominee as the next president. I look forward to working with all of you to ensure our country and our city are protected from the tyranny of Donald Trump, and to make sure that we are always protecting our LGBTQ communities. We're working to ensure a woman's right to choose, and the values of not just the Democratic Party, but the values that all of us hold dear here in San Francisco are protected as well. You all know deep down in your hearts and your souls that I am the best person to continue to lead this city of San Francisco. No other person can do what I do, not just here in the city, but nationwide as a Democratic leader with relationships from the state and the federal levels that have delivered results for San Francisco time and time again. And I would be honored to have your support. And I thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. We are looking at our own time schedule, and if members would agree, we would like to open it up for one more question and move these interviews to 20 minutes because it is going by so quickly, and there is more
After
to
that
say.
great
I know
closing
you did. You gave
statement.
a great conclusion.
We
But
know you have
good at this.
we
So,
know you have a lot. Oh, I was just going to
so-
say, we know you
so
have
if
a lot to. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, I was saying, we know you have a lot to share, and we would change it for all candidates, and we would extend the time
Yes.
judiciously.
Yes. So anyway, so was everyone all right with that? It looks to me like they are. So the next, is that all right with you, Madam Mayor?
It's fine.
Okay, great.
I'm here. I'm here to give you whatever you need.
Okay, great. So then let me ask Chairman Chair Tung to ask her question, and then we will conclude this interview and go to the next.
Good morning, Mayor. Nice to
Good
see you.
morning.
I have a question that is a little bit in the weeds. As you know, San Francisco has a unique way of voting. It is ranked choice voting. I would like to know what your feelings are on it, whether it's a good or bad system in your view, and whether or not you'd be supportive of ranked choice voting reform.
So I appreciate that question. And the fact is, I struggle with that because at the same time, like I've won all my races with ranked choice voting. So
Not everyone is you, Mayor.
The thing that I worry about the most with ranked choice is how every single year when it comes up, people are, what do we do? What does it mean? How does it work? So I think that, even though the Department of Elections has done videos, campaigns have done videos, for whatever reason, every year you have a significant part of the population that is always asking questions about how ranked choice voting works. So I think that it's worth having a discussion. One of the things that I'm happy that we've extended it from where you just vote for the top 3 to you can vote for more. I think that's very helpful. So you give your different options so you don't feel like you were left out of the equation. If you have 5 candidates and you rank them all in the order, I think that's helpful to make people feel like, well, at least I had a say. But at the same time, I think, the educating of voters has been very difficult. And I think I would be open to the discussion because, even places in other cities and other countries have expressed a lot of interest in having me explain to them whether or not they should switch to this system. And it is more cost effective, of course, than having a whole nother election. But I do think we need to look at, to ensure that we don't suppress voter turnout, that we look at the data and have a robust discussion as to whether or not it's the kind of system that we should be using.
Great.
Appreciate
Wonderful.
that answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being with us this morning, Madam Mayor. It's nice to have you. And we will see you on the campaign trail.
Great. Thank you all so much.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
All right,
Okay, so just real quick, Bobak. So we've
Go ahead,
added
yeah.
5. Sorry.
Sorry, I was just saying I removed her down back to attendee. So yes, just so I understood the thing you said just now, you're adding extra time for Q&A for all of the candidates going forward?
So we're adding 5 more minutes of Q&A in the middle of the section. So now we will go 2-minute opening, 16-minute Q&A, and a 2-minute close.
Got it. Okay, I will update your document. Next, we have your calendar calls for Mark Farrell. Mr. Farrell is Oh, I'm sorry. Jade, member two, is Mark logged into your account?
I don't know what happened when I registered him, but his name is my name for some reason. So if you can help me change that.
There is no attendee in the block called Jade 2. There's only you
Oh, there
here
he is.
now.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to confirm where we added that time again. So it's a 2-minute intro and how many?
16-minute Q&A and a 2-minute close.
And to be
Thank you.
clear, if the candidate speaks past the 2-minute intro, that means they are forfeiting some time in the Q&A. We're not adding that, just to be clear, right?
Correct.
I think it should be taken from the conclusion. Not the Q&A. We want members to be able to ask their questions.
So it would just eat up in the and the end.
Okay.
Yes.
That's
Okay, let's try this again. Yeah, member two, I still don't see him in the attendee
Oh, he's
box.
there.
Hey
Hi,
guys,
Mark.
it's Mark's here.
Hi.
Oh, my bad. Whoops, there you are.
Hey everybody.
My apologies, Mr. Farrell. Let me go ahead and pin your window to the chat. There you go. With that, Co-Chair
Yes.
Alioto.
Good morning. Welcome, Mark. Carrie Barnes here. I'm going to be running your interview, and just so you know what to expect, and so what people just joining know, we're going to be invite you to do a 2-minute pitch and tell us why you're running, 16 minutes of Q&A, 2-minute wrap up. Lanier will be holding signs up to help keep us on track. And I will now open the floor up to you for your 2-minute introduction.
Thanks very much. And appreciate that, Carrie, and great to be with everybody here today. By the way, my Wi-Fi has been going in and out, so if I do buzz out, shoot me a text and I'll just join with my phone, and I apologize for that. The downfall of being at home here. But anyways, pleasure to be with everybody here today. I am a proud born and raised Democrat here in San Francisco. Proud to have served in my local Democratic Party. Okay. Again, my background, growing up here in San Francisco, both my parents were heads of their labor unions here in.
Pretty bad connection.
Yeah. Number two, text Mark, tell him jump on his phone.
Hey everyone, I apologize about that. Yeah.
I mean, you can call in. It's not ideal, but. Should we,
All right, everybody.
okay.
I apologize about that. My home Wi-Fi is cutting in and out, so I just went to the iPhone, so had to adjust. Carrie and team, can you hear me now?
Yes, that's much
Okay.
better. Do we, yeah, just if you could wrap up or start, finish, sort of.
Yeah. Look,
intro.
I'll be quick up front.
Okay.
First of all, thank you all for having me here today. Happy Sunday morning. I'm a proud and born and raised San Franciscan. Proud that I'm a born and raised San Francisco Democrat, and that my wife Liz and I are raising our 3 children here. And our daughter, who just turned 18, just registered as a Democrat here in San Francisco. So we're raising the next generation as well here in the city. As many of you know, I grew up here in the city as an only kid. Both my parents were part of their labor unions, and not only part of their labor unions, but heads of their labor unions at different points in time, and really grew up with those values here in the city. My first job out of college was working for Clinton Gore in 1996. Here in San Francisco, volunteered for about 5 months and learned to put in 20-hour days. And for the last 3 days of the campaign was put on payroll. So was a staff members during the 1996 campaign. And also obviously very proud to have served in City Hall for 7.5 years. As part of that, ran and won a seat on this Democratic County Central Committee here in San Francisco. And I will say, I left City Hall in 2018 because of my kids. At the time, they were 5, 10, and 12. And if you know me at all, I am a dad first. But I am also running for mayor this time around because of my kids again. Our daughter, who just graduated from college, or excuse me, from high school, she's going off to college. I want her to be proud to call San Francisco home. And I think more than anything, I want her to move back. But in order for that to happen, our city needs to be affordable, needs to be safe. We need to have economic opportunities for everybody. That doesn't exist today, and I'm looking forward to the rest of this campaign and hopefully really making a real difference for our city. So thank you all for having me.
Okay, thank you. Great. I will pivot to the first question and then followed by Michaela if she'd like, or we can also then jump to member questions. So the first one that I have for you is, as someone who has hired and fired people working in the private sector, San Francisco has thousands of unfilled positions across our city, and a grand jury found that it's very long and onerous to hire people. So what will you do if elected mayor to make sure motivated, talented people want to work for San Francisco and can?
I think it's a great question. And to be quite honest with you, I think one of the frustrations that I've always had, and when I was in office before, is that we are surrounded in San Francisco by a significant amount of not only private sector talent, but people that have worked in other governments before that want to come and work for the city of San Francisco, but that have had a long hiring process and found other jobs and so forth. So streamlining, that's a very big deal. I also think that, as a city government, we need to think about the size of our city government as well. We're over 35,000 employees at this point in time. And what I would suggest is, number one, that's a large amount of headcount, but also what we're doing inside of City Hall is outsourcing so much of our services, both third-party contracts, a lot of nonprofits, many of which, I support, that are doing great work here in San Francisco. But what we're doing and how we're spending our capital is inefficient. And I would much rather see us bring it in-house in San Francisco and making sure that we've reformed that hiring process so we can do that. But also creating an environment where we are allowing and enabling, backing upon what Mayor Lee did when he was in office with our support on the Board of Supervisors, making sure that we're able to bring private sector talent to volunteer their time inside of City Hall as well. I think that effort's largely stalled. I think we could benefit from that quite a bit inside of City Hall, and we'll look forward to continuing that.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so I believe the first question is
Carrie?
yes.
It would be the co-chair. Yes.
Co-chair.
Thank you. Hey, Mark.
Sorry.
Hey, Michaela.
So I'll try and make it quick. COVID was a tough time for not only the country, but San Francisco in particular. And a lot of our organizations, the firefighters among them, are concerned about rehiring or would like to rehire those who chose not to vaccinate and were let go. I would love it if you could just talk a little bit about your position on that, on the rehiring of those workers. And also, did you support the COVID vaccine mandate in the city at the time? Not today. I think people may view things different after it happened, but that was a really hard time to be making hard decisions. We're just sort of curious where you would have come down at the time on that.
Yes, I did at the time. And thank you for that, Michaela, and good to see
Sure.
you.
Nice to see you.
Yes, I did at the time. And I also would fully support the rehiring of these individuals at this point in time as well. Specifically in the fire department, I think is the department that I've heard from the most. And I'll be honest with you, it's a very organic discussion as I've been speaking with firefighters during the course of this campaign, and quite frankly, even before that, knowing a lot of the firefighters just on a personal basis from growing up in San Francisco. It is amazing to me how much that topic comes up. And quite frankly, how frustrated a lot of firefighters are that, they may agree or disagree with the decision to not get the vaccine. But at this point in time, given where we sit post-COVID and thankfully past it, for a large part, I know it still lingers, that they want these people back because they're experienced officers, and whether it's, police, fire, what have you, all of our public safety departments, experienced officers matter. And having those people come in, I think, not only are people frustrated that they don't have their kind of brothers and sisters, if you will, that they worked in the firehouses with, being able to get jobs again or to be rehired. But also a lot of them have gone through the process, started from scratch to be rehired, only to get to a final interview and be told no. And I think that's really frustrating for a lot of people that are not only going through it, but the people that are still in the department right now. So I would fully support it, unequivocally
Okay.
so.
Yeah, but at the time you did support the vaccine mandate.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay, great. Perfect. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Carrie?
Sorry, I almost skipped over you, Michaela. Okay, moving on to next question. I believe it is Cedric Akbar. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. Remember to keep that question short. Keep going.
Question is going to be short and the answer could be short. Good morning, Mr. Farrell. How you doing?
Hi, Cedric. How are you?
Okay. So in your questionnaire, when asked if you remained in the city during COVID, the question wasn't answered. So can you confirm that you remained in San Francisco during COVID?
I can confirm that 100%.
Thank you.
Okay,
You're
next.
welcome.
Ready? We're moving on to the next question. And that is Chair Nancy Tung, please.
Hi, Mark. I wanted to ask you about our ranked choice voting structure in San Francisco. I wanted to know if you were in favor or opposed to ranked choice voting, what kind of challenges you think it presents for voters, and whether or not you'd be in favor of reform on ranked choice voting.
Thanks for that, Nancy. I can see you have your parent hat on in the car, obviously, this morning on a Sunday morning. I get it. Yeah, look, to be very clear, I don't like ranked choice voting. When I was in office before, I tried to get rid of it or put it on the ballot, and that didn't get through the Board of Supervisors. That being said, it is the system we have today, and I think everybody needs to embrace that. In terms of why I didn't like it, two reasons, and one that really continues. One, if you look at the statistics, at least historically, when I made that effort, must have been back in 2012, something in that time frame. The amount of people that were disenfranchised was significant. The people that didn't understand how to vote. But then really right now, even refresh my memory this time running for office, how confused people are by it. I think we have an incredibly educated electorate here in San Francisco, and people are truly confused. That being said, it is the system we have today. And I believe every candidate, organization, body should embrace it. And I've been very public about that. Asking my supporters, obviously, as a candidate, my job is to ask people to support me first. And I do that and hopefully do that with passion, but also encourage them to put somebody second and third, somebody else, that they might not be their first choice, but that they would be okay seeing in office. I think it's critically important. Nobody's going to win in this election, certainly in the mayor's race, without ranked choice voting. So I've continued to embrace that in the course of the campaign.
Okay, thank you. Next question, member 2.
No, so I think we're going to skip member 2.
Okay.
Thank you.
I believe then the next question is Peter Galata, if I have that correct.
Thank you, Chair Barnes. Hi, Mark. Good morning. Thanks,
Peter.
Good to see you. So obviously we're all working to stop a Trump presidency, but in the nightmare scenario where Trump does become president, one of the policies he has spoken about really recently, and that has been put forth under Project 2025, is mass deportations of immigrants in our country, specifically undocumented immigrants and aspiring citizens. There were pictures of people at the Republican National Convention holding signs that said mass deportations, which was just disgusting to see. So if you are elected mayor, will you continue to uphold San Francisco's sanctuary city policy that prevents the city from coordinating with ICE to enforce federal immigration laws? And what will you do to support the immigrant community under the threat of a Trump presidency?
Thanks for that question, Peter. Yeah, there's so much wrong with what is going on, with President Trump, former President Trump, and the RNC last week. And it just, I think, sends shivers up our spines on so many levels. So many different things that they're espousing, especially this Project 2025, which is, just so abhorrent to how we view democracy in our country, certainly here in San Francisco. So yes, I would fully, continue to uphold our sanctuary city policy. And I think the biggest thing to do really is to, if unfortunately there is a Trump presidency again, that's going to affect us on multiple levels as a city. to be sure, aside from the psyche of San Franciscans. But I think that, making sure that we push back with every kind of in every means possible against some of these kind of policies that the president will try, the hypothetical president will try to kind of jam down or ram down the throats of people in different states, in different localities and municipalities. And I have no pretense that we would not be a target for a Trump presidency, to be sure. I think the biggest thing to do, and I was in office before when he was in office, is to make sure that we push back against that at every level and stand incredibly firm and stand incredibly proud of who we are as San Franciscans, and making sure that, we continue to do that with force and with vigor and with passion, and never give an ounce. And I would fully commit to doing that. We did it before. I think we're going to need a mayor that's going to be super energized if that came to pass, and I would be that person.
Okay. Would love to keep moving if possible. Thank you. I believe Malia Cohen is the next question, correct?
Great, thank you. Good morning. So actually have several questions for the members of the public. I had an opportunity to serve with Mark Farrell 7 years on the Board of Supervisors. We spent a lot of time together sitting next to each other in the chamber. And I represented the southeastern neighborhoods, and you represented kind of the northeast, west side, a little bit of the west side of the city. And oftentimes we did not see eye to eye on many matters, one of which has to do with public policing. Now, I've also spent time on the police commission. I was, my alarms went off when you said right out the back that you were going to be firing Chief Scott. And I really wanted you to quantify and qualify that statement as to why you believe this chief deserves to be removed.
Sure. Thanks for that, Malia, and good to see you again. Look, I think for a few things. I think number one, if we take a step back, the average tenure of a police chief in the U.S. is 3 years, and has been here for close to 8. And I've been very clear from the beginning. I've never used the word fire. Other people pick up on that. I think Chief Scott's a good man, and I enjoyed our working relationship. But the reality is, since I left office in 2018, we have a police department that is down, close to 600 officers. I think any given point in time, there's a different number there, but essentially 25% of our police department is gone. Through City Hall and the budget process, and this mayor stripped $120 million out of that police department budget a few years ago. The rank and file and the officers that I've spoken with, and that is in every district in San Francisco, every police station, are largely very demoralized. And we have a situation now with a police commission that is, kind of running roughshod and oftentimes over police officers in terms of policies as well, that in many people view as antithetical to public safety. And to me, I believe the charge of the next mayor needs to be to reinvigorate our police department, to grow our police staffing levels, to grow the budget, and to make sure that we give the police officers the tools that they need to do their job. And I think that's going to have to come with a different leader of the police department.
Can I say hello? Yeah, you can say hello.
So
talk to me a little bit about your housing policy. That's Mark.
Malia, I just want to interject super quick. We have time for a 2-minute conclusion, or Mark, you could answer the question and then shorten your conclusion, your decision.
I'm happy to answer the question. Sure.
Okay,
The question really is just clarifying your position on not upzoning certain parts of the city, particularly the west side of the city.
Look, Malia, as you know, my track record inside of City Hall was incredibly pro-housing. Both inside of District 2, a lot of individual infill lots, as well as kickstarting a number of the projects that can contribute more housing to the north side of San Francisco than any time in our city's history. So, and very close to where I live, the CPMC site, the UCSF Laurel Heights site at 3333 California, as well as the Lucky Penny site on Masonic and Geary, fought against the mission moratorium, unlike a number of people that I serve with, that we serve with on the Board of Supervisors. And I will continue that policy. And I believe we need to build housing across the city of San Francisco. I do believe as well, though, that the largest number of units and the capacity for that is upzoning in the kind of financial South of Market, Mission Bay neighborhoods. But I also believe every single neighborhood should have increased housing. I've been very specific about transit corridors, very specific about individual pieces of legislation, Supervisor Engardio's legislation on corner lots, form-based density, again, transit corridors. We need to build everywhere. I also don't believe that every neighborhood in San Francisco should look the same. And I also believe that our city's current housing policies have failed. Last year, when we only built 2,000 units, and as of a month ago, we only approved something like 16 units out of planning. What we're doing is not working. Yes, I believe we can build to our 82,000 units, and we can do it in a very effective way. And I just want to focus on results and get it done. We haven't so far in City Hall, and I will be mayor that does that. I appreciate that question.
Okay, we're going to move to a concluding statement from Mark. And how many minutes linear does he have for that? Linear.
Yes, 1 minute, 11 seconds.
There you go. Thank you.
Thanks for that specific. Well, listen, again, thank you all for having me here today. It's great to be with you on Sunday morning. I will just say once again, as someone who was born and raised in San Francisco as a Democrat, I do believe that the best part of our city is our people here in San Francisco. And, I'm so lucky to have grown up here, so lucky that we're raising our children here. And it's those democratic values that we have as the city of San Francisco that I am proud to stand behind, both here, living here when I was a student in different cities around the world. And here in San Francisco, very proud to have served on this body before in the Democratic County Central Committee in my time in office, in City Hall as a supervisor and as interim mayor. And what I will say is, I'm running again for my children, and I want to make San Francisco a place everybody is proud to call home. And I look forward to the rest of the campaign. I look forward to our continued dialogue together, and hopefully, again, working together to really further the democratic values of our city moving forward into 2025. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Hey, guys.
Okay, so Bobak, can you give us a next step?
Yeah, so you did have a block reserved for a candidate who ultimately chose to not apply for the consideration. So that block is now buffer time. But the next candidate that is scheduled for 10 a.m., Mr. Friedman, is actually here now. So I will promote him up. And if you two consent and if he consents, we could start him early or take 15 and come back at 10. It's your call.
I think we should try and get him in.
All right. I will promote Mr. Friedman, and we can ask him if he wants to do that or not.
Can you all see me?
Hi, how are you?
Hi, hello. I'm at your disposal, so if we can get things started early, that helps everyone, I think.
Okay, great, perfect. Well, thank you for joining us today, Mr. Friedman. My name is Michaela Alioto-Pierre. I am your co-chair of the Endorsement Committee, along with Carrie Barnes. Member Lanier Cole will be taking the time. And what we're looking at, we've added 5 minutes to the Q&A section. I hope that's okay with you. We can always take it out if you don't want to do it, but we are going to offer that to our candidates. So right now, the general format is a 2-minute opening, followed by 16-minute Q&A, followed by a 2-minute close. And so with that, the clock will start as soon as you begin your opening. And we'd just like to welcome you here this morning and thank you very much for participating in the process with us.
All right. Well, thank you all for having me. I know that many of you don't know me very well. I am the co-chair of a Democratic club and have been for 8 years off and on. That's the Home Chairs Democratic Club. We started that club actually, and that's what kind of fueled my interest in politics. Well, I wouldn't say it's an interest in politics. It drove a need to participate in politics because what we found was our leaders weren't listening to us as citizens. And by chartering a Democratic club, all of a sudden we got attention. We could get meetings with our board of supervisors. And that's actually one of the reasons I really feel I need to run for mayor. You shouldn't have to be a member of a political party or a member of a specific club or something that provides value to politicians in order to be heard. Our mayor is supposed to serve the entire city of San Francisco. That's all our citizens. That means Democrats, Republicans, Green Party, Independent. Every citizen of San Francisco should be served by the mayor. I don't feel that that's the case now. So I felt compelled to run for mayor here. A little bit about my background is I was born in Colorado. I'm a gay Jewish man, and Colorado. I grew up about a mile away from the exalted Cyclops of the Ku Klux Klan. It's a big word, but it was not a very welcoming place for someone like me. And I went through college in the closet as well, and I got a job opportunity out in San Francisco, and I thought, what a great place to try and really be who I am. And I felt a sense of belonging and welcomeness here. And this is why I think a lot of people are in San Francisco. We have a lot of diversity here. We celebrate diversity. And I think that we've lost some of that. So I want to bring those values back to San Francisco. I want to highlight them. And I want to make San Francisco a place that people want to visit and want to live.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that opening. It's nice to have the opportunity to get to know you. As a candidate running for mayor, when you look at this city, what would be your main goals and objectives if you were elected? What do you think there are the biggest issues that we're grappling with right now, and how would you like to see or effectuate that change?
Homeless is really the biggest problem, and it's affecting everything else. So we can't bring tourists back until we solve our homeless problem. We can't bring businesses back until we solve our homeless problem. So my Rising Tide initiative, which is right there, the URL, that is, I think it's the only solution that any mayoral candidate is providing that can actually be effective. Shelter beds don't solve the problem. Allowing people to sleep 6 inches off the ground instead of on the ground is not a solution to the homeless problem. We need wraparound services, supportive housing, cost-effective solutions, and cruise ships affected. The short version is we're going to take retired cruise ships and turn them into homeless housing where people can get job placement training, drug rehabilitation, life skills training, and all the things you need to actually get your life back together. Part of the reason that none of our homeless stuff works now is because rehabilitation doesn't work if someone's situation hasn't changed. Job training doesn't work because employers typically aren't going to hire somebody that doesn't have a place to live. So as an employer, I've actually hired homeless people and helped them find their way into housed situations. And so I've done this. And I think this is a cost-effective way. The cost per unit is about 1/10 of what it costs us to build homeless housing. Beyond that, I want to finish answering your question. Beyond that, we need to get our businesses back, and we need to fill our storefronts, and we need to bring tourism back, which is one of our driving revenue sources in San Francisco. So again, in order to do B and C, we have to get A done.
Great, thank you very much. Co-Chair Barnes.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Keith. I read that you serve or have served on the SFPD Small Business Security Advisory Committee. And I also took note that you believe the police are handcuffed and are unable to do their jobs. And I'd like to hear why, and if elected, how you would resolve that.
Yeah, so we have a lot of policies, and our policies are a lot of things we do in San Francisco are rooted in good places. So our policies are to try and reduce incidences of, crime on behalf of the police, right? We don't have police brutality complaints that we have other places, but we also don't have arrests and convictions that other places have. So I think there's a delicate balance between policies that prevent the police from going too far and policies that actually handcuff the police. And I use that term because I talk to a lot of the police officers out there, and they really just feel like they're not allowed to do their job. Most people go into police into policing because they really actually want to protect and serve their communities. These aren't people who are just looking for a chance to wield a gun against some random stranger. These are people who really feel a passion for making the world safer, and we just don't let them do that. So I won't say that we should fire Chief Scott. I know I've met Chief Scott. I participated on the forum with him, and I don't think he's a bad guy. Also, like Mark said, but I'm a businessman, so I've had a small business in San Francisco for 8 years. I've been a consultant for 28 years, and the way to do this is you sit down with your employee that's not performing, and you have a performance review, and you put them on a performance improvement plan. And if they then don't perform, then then you fire them. But I don't think that I don't know if Chief Scott is not, if his policies he's implementing are because those are his policies or those are in concert with the current mayor. I don't know the answer to that question, but I'll find out. And I believe that's the way to handle all of our city agencies that are underperforming. Put them on a performance improvement plan. And if they don't improve, then change leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chair Tong.
Hi, good morning, Keith. Nice to see you. Thanks for participating in our interview process. I'm asking all the mayoral candidates a question about our form of voting in San Francisco, which is ranked choice voting. I wanted to know what your feelings on ranked choice voting were. Do you think it's good, bad? Does it disenfranchise voters? And would you be open to reform of that voting process?
I'm open to reform of any process, including our voting process. We have, I'm a computer technology person, and in the technology in the technology sector, you iterate and you improve. That's how you're supposed to be doing things. And our government seems to choose something and then just stubbornly stick to it absent any evidence to the contrary. There's approval voting. There's a few other different kinds of voting mechanisms that might save us the costs and expense of runoff elections. That's the main benefit financially of ranked choice voting, is that it saves people from having to vote a second time, but it does disenfranchise people. In a way, it can help someone like me who's an underdog. If I can get enough first choice votes and enough second choice votes, if I get enough first choice votes to survive and enough second choice votes to win, I can end up winning this election. It would help a lot if I had your endorsement. So keep that in mind. But yes, there's a lot of other things we should do. We should be looking into. Just because we have one, we have to use it for this election, but it doesn't mean we have to use it for the next election.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Member Nguyen.
Hi, good morning, and thanks, co-chairs. And hi, Keith. Good to see you again. My question, I was reading through your endorsement questionnaire, and you mentioned your position on technology and its use, including cameras and drones and policing San Francisco. Can you talk more about that? I'm a fellow computer scientist. I am a technologist as a patent lawyer. I'm curious around how do you balance folks' needs for privacy, or is there a sense of privacy, and kind of using technology for policing purposes?
Well, these are discussions we have to have as a community. So yes, I believe in using technology for all aspects of life that can provide benefit, policing included. I think that we can look at what other cities are doing that have technology and see where it's working and where it isn't working, so we can do a better job than them. But also, we should be innovating. We're the heart of Silicon Valley. We should be the ones that are trying things first. We build a lot of this technology around here. We should be using it, but we can use it in a measured way. So if facial recognition is proven to be flawed, we can still do some facial recognition, but maybe we don't use that as aggressively. But it can lead you in the right direction. It can help policing. My warehouse was burglarized in February, and fortunately, I had hours of footage from all my various different cameras, and that actually helped the police identify a suspect. We were able to pull we didn't use facial recognition software. People individually looked at the faces in the video and were able to identify a suspect who's now in jail. So, saying we shouldn't use technology isn't the right approach. Figuring out how to make technology work better, and when the technology fails, we should stop using it, but we shouldn't stop using it because we don't know how to use it and we're not well trained to use it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and I guess the question more was balancing privacy.
Oh, yes. On the privacy side, I think even I like my privacy too, but in the United States, you don't have an expectation of privacy in public spaces. And if you're using public spaces to commit crimes, people are driving away with their stolen goods on our roadways. I think we have every right as citizens to make sure that our public spaces are safe and there's just no expectation of privacy. London has nearly every square footage of public space in London is on CCTV, and they have much more effective crime fighting. And people there don't feel like their privacy is being invaded. Some of that comes to policy. If we find that our police are doing something inappropriate with footage that they have access to, we can address that.
Thank you. Great. So talking a little bit about public safety, let's sort of switch and move into neighborhood commercial districts. The economy is a big part of obviously San Francisco's health, and COVID, some of our small businesses really took it hard during COVID. Do you have any thoughts on how we might be able to generate more activity in our neighborhood commercial districts and fill the vacancies that have been left?
Yeah, so when the pandemic started, I was on the Council of District Merchants Associations, and we were struggling with the new mandates that came out. I'm on the board of the South Market Business Association, and SOMA has been fairly devastated. I'm also a member of the Castro Merchants Association. That's where my short-term rental business is, and I think it's hard to say what I think will work. What isn't working is pretending to have things like vacant storefront legislation that's not effective. I'm a carrot person instead of a stick person. We need to incentivize people with opening businesses. We need to make it faster and easier to open businesses. There's a new pizza shop that just opened up in the Castro. It used to be a food service venue. It took them 7 months to get all the permitting to sell food in a place that used to sell food. It makes no sense to me. And they had to pay rent for 7 months while they were not in business making money. So this is what we can do to get our storefronts open is we can streamline the permitting process. We can do all the things that our current mayor claims that she's doing but isn't doing. We need to actually do these things. People need actionable results. And we need a real first year free program. And we need to, if we need to subsidize businesses to get them open while it's the city's fault that they're not able to get permits because our permitting process is slow, maybe we need to look into that. But we need to make it cost effective and quick for people to open businesses, then they'll do it.
Great, thank you. What about your thoughts on housing in San Francisco and where might we be able to build more? Is it an issue that you think is important? Can it impact the downtown corridor? I know those are sort of three random things, but your general thoughts on housing.
They're general and related at the same time.
Yeah.
I support a uniform planning code, and so each of our districts or neighborhoods more so because the neighborhoods span districts should have a planning code that's appropriate for that part of the city. We want to maintain our unique characters of all of our neighborhoods in the city, but we can go up. For example, the west side we can double and maybe even triple heights without impacting quality of life there. In fact, we'd be improving quality of life because the higher density will keep businesses open. The west side's lost a lot of businesses simply because there just aren't enough people left to keep to go to a restaurant enough times for them to make money to pay rent. I don't want a Manhattanization of San Francisco, but I do like our downtown big, tall high rises. Tourists really love them too. They like being able to walk around and see these big buildings and then walk into another neighborhood and see something very quaint. So I think we can do that and we can increase housing across the city. It's every San Franciscan's responsibility to bear the burden of the additional housing requirements. But the real thing is we have to incentivize builders to invest here, and the holding costs and the costs of construction here are way too high. So we have to streamline all of our DBI and planning and make it. You have to be able to build something in 24 months instead of 3 to 5 years.
And what about downtown? I mean, downtown itself, we've never really viewed it as a neighborhood commercial district, but there are conversations about converting some of the buildings, the office buildings downtown into housing. Do you have any thoughts on that? And Union Square too, that's come up as well.
Yeah, again, we have to be adaptive. We don't need as much business square footage anymore because the businesses have changed. People aren't going into the office full time. Businesses don't need as much commercial space. So I don't necessarily approve of just converting a giant office tower into housing. I like a hybrid approach. I'd like to see housing on the top half and commercial, businesses on the bottom half, and that way you get a little bit of both. It extends the money earning potential for businesses. Right now, businesses downtown near places that do have activity, their earning potential is maybe 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. But if you do a mixed use thing and we have business and residential, suddenly those restaurants now can earn money up till 11 p.m. And now we have viable businesses that can stay open. When you can only have a third of the day to earn your rent, you have to charge much higher prices. So I think we'll see prices actually come down if we can give businesses longer hours where they're earning money. So that's my approach to downtown, is kind of a mixed use, live commercial and residential.
Great. So our last question will be from Controller Cohen.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you. My question is actually more of a tactile question. I'd like to know if you could tell me with great detail your pathway forward. How do you plan to win this mayoral race that is highly contested?
That's a good question. So, and I'm a first-time candidate for mayor, and I think that actually benefits me a lot. I think that the people in San Francisco are a little fed up with the current leadership, and they're just ready for something new. They chose a new DCCC leadership because they want change, and I think that change actually extends all the way into City Hall. I'll be surprised if many of the incumbents get reelected. So
but what's your plan? Do you have a ranked choice plan?
To be
a
honest with you,
plan?
Well, I need money. That's why I have my QR code right here. So anyone watching this, feel free to toss $150 in there. That'll help. But this endorsement will help too, right? So I didn't have the 1 year head start that London had to go collect endorsements. But what I'm going out and I'm meeting people. I'm meeting the press. I'm doing everything I can to try and get my name out there. I'm meeting with organizations like this so it really comes down to fundraising. The debate invitations tend to be tied to fundraising. And so that's really my priority now, is to get the fundraising so that I can get the proper press attention. After that, it's going out into the community and meeting.
So your decision to run, was it like a last minute decision, or it sounds like it wasn't part of a long-term plan for you?
I've been working on it since November, and I was struggling to find a campaign committee consultant, and the consultants in San Francisco aren't interested because I didn't come to them with money, and I don't have the money to buy my seat at the table. I have to earn it. So my consultants are actually out of Colorado, where I'm born, and I have family there, and so those are where my consultants come from. So they're less expensive and they do good work. But yes, so it wasn't a last minute thing. It was just it took a lot longer for me to get down that road than other people.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Friedman. Now you have your concluding remarks. You have about a minute and a half.
All right. Well, so to reiterate, I really think that the reason that this particular DCCC contingent was chosen by the Democrats of San Francisco is because they were fed up with the previous leadership, and I think that does go all the way up to the mayor's office. I think that endorsing a incumbent or someone who's currently holding office would disappoint them, to be honest with you. So I think they're ready for something new. I have 28-year track record, even though Mark likes to say he's the only one with private sector experience. I'm the one with the most private sector experience. I'm working on the board of the Tourism Improvement District Board, trying to improve our tourism and our reputation around the world. And I have good business practices that I can bring to the mayor's office, fiscal responsibility while also being compassionate and caring.
Great. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Mr. Friedman. It was really nice to get to know you and to hear what you had to say, and we really appreciate you being a part of the process.
Thank you all for having me.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and move Mr. Friedman back into the attendee box. And your next scheduled interview is Mr. Lurie for 10:20. But I will point out that Mr. Lurie is here now. So if you all want to, we can do the same thing we just did with Mr. Friedman. Invite Mr. Lurie to come up early, and if you two consent, you can start your interview early, or you can take the 10-minute break.
Do you want to ask him and
I
see
think-
if it's okay with
I
him?
think we should move him forward if he's ready to go, and then we'll have a longer break between the end of Daniel and the beginning of Aaron, and then we won't have any more breaks.
Let's promote him and ask. Mr. Lurie, are you okay with starting early?
Was born ready. Let's go.
Okay, fabulous. I'm going to be running your interview, Daniel. So we just wanted to check to make sure that was okay to start a little early. Sounds like you're ready.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So in terms of format, what we've been trying to stick to is a 2-minute pitch from the candidate, followed by a 16-minute Q&A, questions from members of the DCCC, followed by a 2-minute wrap-up. With that, I'd love to invite you to start your 2-minute pitch. Oh, and would love to make sure I introduce Michaela Alapir, our co-chair of the Endorsements Committee.
Hi, Michaela.
And then Linear Coles is our timekeeper for today, Member Coles. Okay, so with that, you can have the floor, Daniel. Thank you.
Thank you all. I appreciate it. I love this city. I was born and raised here. My wife, Becca, and I are proud to be raising 2 young kids here. We have a 13-year-old daughter, a 10-year-old son, and Becca and I are both proud to be lifelong Democrats, committed to making our city and our country a better place to live and to work. It's clear that we need change. Turning our city around demands accountable leadership and new ideas. That's why I know so many of you stepped up to run for the DCCC. The City Hall insiders who got us into this mess won't get us out. I've said this before, and the reason I know this, I think we all know this, is not because of what they'll say on Zoom or during this campaign, but because of their records. They all have records. Doing things the wrong way over and over again is not experience. That's called failure. It wouldn't be accepted where you all work, and we should not accept it in City Hall. As you all know, I haven't spent my career in politics. I founded and served as the CEO of one of the most innovative anti-poverty fighting organizations in the country. I'm actually the only candidate in this race that's held nonprofits accountable and delivered measurable results. I built affordable housing in San Francisco on time and at a fraction of what it cost the city. I've proven over and over again that accountable leadership can get big things done for our city. I'm not afraid. I will not be afraid to do things differently. And I will bring a new culture of accountability to City Hall on day 1 of my administration, because that's what it's going to take to make our city safe and clean, permanently end the drug markets, rapidly build housing at all levels, and bring our businesses back.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to start with the first question. Daniel, you successfully ran a large nonprofit for a long time, and you've pointed out that our city spends about 1/3 of its $15 billion budget on thousands of contracts, suppliers, nonprofit organizations. If elected, how would you streamline this part of the city's budget to reduce redundancies and save money?
Just one example. We have 6 different construction management teams at 6 different departments. And I actually was just talking to somebody who works inside City Hall yesterday. And he agreed that there shouldn't be 6 different firms doing this. So when we have big public works projects like, the rapid bus line on Van Ness or the nightmare on Taravel Street, These departments don't talk to each other. So when small businesses call and they say someone broke my window or a pipe was burst, which happened multiple times on Taravel Street, these small business owners call one department and one department says, oh, that wasn't me, it's that department. And they get the runaround. There's going to be one construction management team under my watch. Same goes with the nonprofits. Right now, a group, there's 248 different nonprofits that get funding on housing and homelessness. Nonprofit X can get funding from 6, 7, or 8 different department heads and departments. That ends also on day one of my administration. We're going to have a centralized unit of contract experts. Just like I had at Tipping Point, we had a housing division, education, early childhood, and employment. My 4 program managers weren't responsible for contracting. We had a technical assistance crew that did that. The same will happen at Tipping Point. We're going to save tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. We're going to find the great nonprofits and the great contractors. We're going to have contractor scorecards. Nonprofit heads are going to have to register as lobbyists. And we're going to cut the fraud, the waste, and the abuse.
Thank you. Michaela?
Hi, Daniel.
Hi.
Okay, so here's a question for you. In your home run plan, you've committed to building 1,500 shelter beds to clear encampments in the first 6 months in office. Now, we all know that's, 6 months is a short time in San Francisco's world. So a couple of questions. Where exactly would you want to put those shelter beds? And in that time frame, how would you deal with, potential neighborhood pushback, and all the fun things that come with trying to build a project like that?
Well, first, it's a great question. I want to work with neighborhoods to do this. It's going to be a mix of small sites and big sites. You can use emergency authority to do it. That's not how I want to do it. We have city lands, we have church land, we have places to build these units. Michaela, you know this well. The first reaction that most people in the city are is like, oh, that's too hard. That's just, I don't subscribe to that. I'm going to find ways to get things done, find ways to get our city back to saying yes. Right now, people are struggling with the homelessness and the mental health crisis. I was in Viz Valley and they were saying the same thing as West Portal says. The RVs parked along Lake Merced, I drove by them on Friday. It was longer than I've ever seen, by the way. They want answers out there too. And so they have the problem in their neighborhoods. I know many of them want to be part of the solution. I'll work with them to do it.
Okay, but do we have an idea? So the shelter beds wouldn't all go in one place. They would be.
No, it's got to be citywide. It's got to be citywide. And here's the example of what, we all know what happened at the Navigation Center on the Embarcadero. There was a huge fight. No one wanted it. It just got it got voted on again because it's been so well run. It's clean inside, it's safe, it's dignified inside, and it's safe and clean outside. So that will be a model for me and my administration, because we will commit to the neighborhoods that it will be not only safe and dignified for our unhoused neighbors, but also for those living in those communities.
Okay, and but you have ideas of exactly where they could go? Not things, but where the beds could go? Like
Specific locations, no, but city property, church property. We have this. This notion that we don't have the space. We also need 2 or 3 RV parking lots as well, where RVs can go. We can have power. We can have water. They can have safe places to go, and it's not in neighborhoods. It's not around schools, and it's not not in community necessarily where they are now.
Okay, great. Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you.
Carrie?
We may have lost her to freezing. Why don't you go ahead and call
Okay, why don't I,
can you hear me?
Member Gupta? Oh, go ahead. Yeah, we lost you, Carrie.
Okay, great. Yes, Gupta is great. Thank you.
Great. Hey, Daniel.
Hi, Parag. Good. How are you?
Good. So this question should be no surprise to you. Do you support the $20 billion regional BAFA bond that will be on the ballot this November? And if so, what would you do to make sure the estimated $2.4 billion that San Francisco would receive will be invested quickly into the 86 pending affordable housing projects totaling 8,448 units?
I support it. My career has been about getting people housed. I talk often, you all have heard me talk about 833 Bryant, getting it built on time, under budget with good paying union labor. But what I don't talk about much is that since 2015, I've worked with our groups to house over 40,000 people. And that doesn't include thousands of others that we've prevented from falling into homelessness. Everybody on this Zoom knows that we have a housing crisis. It's an affordability crisis. We need to get more housing built. I'm confident that we can do it because we've done it. And this bond is going to help us do that. It goes back to making sure that we streamline the bureaucracy. This SB 423 is going to help shave time on the planning side, but we still have the building permit problem, which, takes 600 days on average for DBI to provide permits. That also has to end. We have to get housing built more quickly. The money will help, but as mayor, I will make sure that my departments are run much more efficiently and effectively.
Wonderful. Thank you. Member Jade 2.
Hi, Jade. Although she's frozen on my end.
Hi, Daniel. How are you?
Good. How are you?
It looks like I'm good. So my question is, how much money has your campaign plus your about your communities?
Yeah, member
so
2, drop your
far?
question.
And what do you think with
we can't hear you.
Hello?
Do you want to put it in the chat, Jade? And we can
And
read
we'll have Carrie ask it. We can't hear
Yeah,
you.
can you guys hear me now? Can you guys hear me now?
I would just recommend putting it in the chat and then I can read it for you.
Okay, sure.
Okay, and then we'll move to Galata and then we'll come back to that.
Thanks, Chair Barnes. Hi, Daniel. Good morning. Good to see you.
Hi, Peter. How are you?
Good. So my question is, San Francisco voters have a history of supporting progressive tax measures that have asked corporations and large landowners to pay their fair share, whether it's been policies like our commercial property transfer tax, gross receipts taxes, or CEO compensation tax. As mayor, would you support the implementation of these policies to hold corporations and landlords accountable, such as the full implementation of Prop C from 2018 and Prop I in 2020? And if not, what would your approach be to ensuring funding for critical city services, housing, and homeless services, especially given the city's upcoming budget shortfalls?
I'll implement anything that the voters put forward, Peter, and if you're talking about Prop C on the homelessness, yes. I'll just say I stayed out of that as CEO of Tipping Point because we just weren't able to take policy positions. But what we didn't do was, once it was passed, we actually helped staff up the office to make sure that it was implemented well. I think we've had some decent success. I still think that this is not a resource issue on the homelessness front. I think it's how we're spending these dollars efficiently. And they're not to date. Not all of them, but some of them are not. When you are spending $1.7 billion on nonprofits, and you know me, I care deeply about this issue. I know there are many great nonprofits. At Tipping Point, there's 17 nonprofits that are working on housing and homelessness issues between San Francisco and Oakland combined, Peter. In the city and county of San Francisco, there's 248. And this is why my answer before was, we need to make sure that we're holding these groups accountable. Let's get more money to, the Larkin Streets and the HPPs and the Compasses of the world that are doing really good work. And they want to be held accountable, right? It's the ones that aren't that are giving the other nonprofits a bad name. And then frankly, it's always on the nonprofits, but the department heads aren't doing their job. They're not spending their dollars wisely. And that frankly comes back to mayoral leadership. The department heads need to be held accountable. Right now, they're being run like their own little fiefdoms. They're not spending the dollars wisely. It's why I'm talking about bureaucracy and streamlining the bureaucracy. But we've asked the business community to pay their fair share, Peter, and whatever that means. But my point here is many have left, and so increasing business taxes at this time seems like not the way to go, in the sense of we've lost so many businesses. We need to figure out how to get business back so that we can be that compassionate city, so that we can fund those groups that are doing good work. I think it's a fine balance, and I think the balance is out of whack right now.
Okay, thank you. Jade, did you want to try one more time? If not, I can read it.
Yeah, can you guys hear me now? Sorry about that.
Yes.
No
Yeah.
problem. Thank you. So my question to you, Daniel, is how much money has your campaign, plus your IE, plus your ballot measure committee has spent so far? And why do you think with all that money still, you're still third place in the polling?
Oh, Jade, that's a great question coming from you. I have no knowledge of what the IE is doing. Haven't been. I guess this is a good time to tell you that I am going to run a campaign that I can be proud of, that is ethical, that plays by the rules, and that's what I will commit to all of you on this call. November 6th, I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna feel great about how I've run my campaign.
Okay. Thank you. We're going to keep moving. Chair Tung.
All right, let me get here for a second. Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning, Nancy. How are you?
Good. I'm asking all of the mayoral candidates today the same flavor of question, and this is about ranked choice voting. I want to know what your views are on ranked choice voting. Is it good? Is it bad? Does it tend to disenfranchise voters? And whether or not you would support reform of ranked choice voting in the future.
I think it's what we have. It's the cards that we've been dealt. It's frankly why we're going to win this election. And so I'm playing it. I plan to be respectful, be uncompromising in my values, and so that people who may not put me number one will be happy to put me number two. And so I haven't given it much thought in terms of like going and reforming it. I have not done or seen any polls on how the people feel. To be honest, out on the streets, most people don't like it. I'll be straight about that. And so, thinking out loud with you here, like it would be something that I would look at. But to be honest, I'd look at it with you all in the DCCC and see where you all come down. And that could be something that we all work on together.
I think we have time for one more question before we go to your concluding statement. And that would be Michael Nguyen.
Thanks, Co-Chair Barnes, and hi, Daniel. Good to
Hi,
see
Michael.
you.
How are you?
I'm good. I was looking at your questionnaire, and I was very excited to see that climate change and the environmental catastrophe that awaits all of us is really highly ranked on your priorities. I'm curious around the Downtown Climate Innovation Hub, your plans for it, and you mentioned in your website to decrease business taxes by 59%. How would you square that with Member Galata's question around fully implementing Prop C and Prop I?
Yeah, so I mean, I hope we're back to Peter and you, like we're implementing Prop C. I don't know why that's and maybe we can talk offline about that. I'm happy to. I think we are fully implementing Prop C. But Michael, the 59% decrease in clean tech company taxes is something that the voters are going to have on the November ballot as part of the compromise that the labor and business came together. So if that passes, I want to marry that with all the empty office space downtown, the 22 Salesforce towers worth of empty office space, combine that with what's going on at OpenAI, Google, Meta. They all have committed to being warriors for the climate. And yet now AI is going to cause them to use so much power. They have to think about how they're going to be more clean with this AI future along us. So I want to marry all that. I think the job of mayor is to make sure that companies can be clustered together. We set the conditions so that the innovators and the entrepreneurs can be here. Michael, we've lost our standing as the clean tech capital of the world. I mean, it's gone elsewhere. We're being led at the state pretty well, but people are going to New York now and Miami. I want to bring those back. I want those jobs here. I want that tax revenue here. To Peter's point, like, let's do good things with that.
I think we're ready to, thank you, ready to move to your concluding 2-minute statement, Daniel.
Okay. Thank you all. I really appreciate it. I say this every single day. San Francisco is coming back. But I believe the outcome of this election is going to determine how fast and what that comeback looks like. And we can return to the same politicians who have spent their careers building this broken system. And then they all blame it for their failures. Bigger budgets, worse outcomes, more excuses. Or we can choose a better future rooted in accountable leadership, new ideas, and an end to the politics of demonizing each other on every issue. I know what it takes to tackle our city's affordable crisis and get housing built. I'm the only candidate who has built affordable housing on time and under budget with union labor, and the only candidate, as I said before, to house nearly 40,000 people and prevented many more from becoming homelessness. But I'm not naive, okay? I get it. Challenging the status quo is never easy. Many of you ran to challenge the status quo, but that's what it's going to take to build the safe, clean, affordable, and thriving city that we all deserve. But I am so confident that we can get big things done in our city because I've spent my career doing it. I've been proud. I've been a proud lifelong Democrat my entire life and would be honored to have this group's support. And so I really appreciate you all giving me the time this morning.
Thank you. Okay, we will say goodbye to Daniel.
All right, bye everybody.
Thank you
Thanks,
for
Daniel.
joining us.
Take care.
Rebecca, did you want to give a check-in?
Yeah, your schedule calls for a, I believe, 25-minute buffer. I guess it's because we've been moving people up a little bit and we really have 30 minutes. Your next scheduled interview, the last three really, are start at 11 a.m. with Board President Peskin, followed by Supervisor Safai, and closing us up with Mr. Shariati. So we have half an hour, and I've already confirmed that Board President Peskin will be on at 11. So we can
time for coffee. Time
go
for
get coffee, go get tea, whatever you like.
Thank you.
For those of you in the public, we will be resuming. Don't log off, don't leave. I mean, log off if you want and come back, but don't leave. We will this webinar will be ongoing until 11 because I need one full video file for one full upload later tonight.
And a candidate at 11 interview. All right, we'll see you in a little bit.
We resume at 11. All right, folks, we need to bring it back in, bring it together. I am looking in the chat for Supervisor or Board President Peskin's name. I don't see it, although I do see Caitlin Conway. Let me see if that's the right account that needs to be promoted. I'm just going to click the button for that individual, see if that does it. Caitlin, are you the correct account? There's two of you in here. No, not you. Okay, got it. Oops. Disable talking. I will just wait for the board president to get in. Is this the correct account? Let's see here.
There we go.
All right, I am going to rename you as Aaron Peskin so we don't get confused. There we go. Your Zoom account is renamed. We'll pin you to the chat, to the main screen. Welcome, Board President Peskin. And with that, Co-Chair Alioto-Pierre, let us begin the 11 o'clock block.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks, Bobak. Hey, hi, Supervisor. Nice
Good
of you
morning.
to join us today. Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. We have added an additional 5 minutes to the Q&A, if that's okay with you. The interviews went a little quick. And so what we're suggesting is a 2-minute opening, followed by 16 minutes of Q&A with a 2-minute closing statement.
Okay, I have an event that starts at 11, but I will be here as long as we need to be here. I was going to walk in there at 11:15, but good morning.
Okay, we'll go quick.
Ms. Alioto-Pierre and members of the San Francisco Democratic County Central Committee.
And Supervisor, real quick, I just want to introduce our other co-chair, Carrie Barnes, and then just to let you know, Lanier Coles will be taking time. So now the floor is yours. Go
Okay,
ahead.
good morning, Ms. Barnes. Good morning, members of the DCCC. Thank you for the work that you are doing that I know well, as I have been elected to this body, your body, 4 times and served twice as its chair during the momentous days when Barack Obama was elected and the San Francisco Democratic County Central Committee sent hundreds of people to Washoe County and Clark County, Nevada, and opened up a call center where we called into swing states. So thank you for the work that you're going to do. On the day where 15 minutes ago, our president announced that he will not be seeking re-election, and there is even the possibility that the vice president of the United States, who I went to kindergarten, first, second, third, and fourth grade with, may be the nominee of the Democratic Party to be the next president of the United States. So it is a momentous day in the United States of America. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Aaron Peskin, and I am a candidate for mayor of the city and county of San Francisco on that same ballot where we'll be electing another president of the United States. I have been elected to the Board of Supervisors 5 times and served as the president of the board 3 times, and believe that I have exhibited the independence from special interests, the ability to bring people together, to forge consensus, to move San Francisco forward over any number of issues. And I have the detailed ability and experience to move San Francisco forward during a very challenging time over issues related to economic development, to housing, to public safety, to homelessness, and our perilous drug crisis. I would be honored to be considered by the Democratic County Central Committee for an endorsement, and look forward to your questions as they come forward in the next 15 minutes. Thank you for the opportunity to present. And Madam Co-Chair, I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much, Supervisor. So with that, let's start with a question that I think is probably pretty near and dear to your heart, the Port of San Francisco. As we go into the next few years, we know after COVID, the wharf area in particular took a pretty big hit. But as we move forward, how are we going to get the wharf back up in fighting shape? How are we going to work with the Port of San Francisco to do that?
Thank you for that question, former Port Commissioner Alioto Pier. And I know that you and I shared great interest in the 7 miles of state jurisdiction that is the Port of San Francisco, entrusted to the people of the city and county of San Francisco on behalf of the people of the state of California. And I think that in San Francisco's port, which historically was a maritime port and in recent years has become a mixed-use facility, has incredible opportunities that are being realized on the southern waterfront with more recreation and open space at India Basin, where I've spent many, many years piecing together a shoreline park and have obtained funding from the Bay Restoration Authority, for which I sit on that. On the northern waterfront, the goose that has laid the golden egg has been tourism. And we need to, particularly on the eve of climate change, really invest large amounts of financial resources, not only in maintaining and rehabilitating the finger piers that are part of the urban waterfront, but in protecting the billions of dollars of investment that we have in our downtown and along the northern waterfront. And to that end, former Supervisor Alioto Pier, I was the champion of the 2018 seawall resiliency bond that Mayor Breed and I worked on together collaboratively, which enjoyed an over 80% support from the people of the city and county of San Francisco. And I have been at the forefront of the planning with the Port of San Francisco, together with the Army Corps of Engineers, around investing $13 billion for the long-term viability of San Francisco's seawall and waterfront protections that are going to be critical to Fisherman's Wharf viability in the years to come. I want to continue to do the kind of work that we have done along Jefferson Street to make it more pedestrian and tourist friendly. And we have many plans in the works for Fisherman's Wharf.
Great. Thank you very much, Supervisor. With that, Co-Chair Barnes.
Thank you. Hi, Supervisor Peskin. Nice to see you this morning. I feel like you probably know the question I might be asking or interested in, maybe not. But in your questionnaire, you wrote that you believe healthcare is a human right and that housing is healthcare. I'd like to hear how, if elected, you would put this sentiment into action and implement policies to support both housing and the health of our city. Thank you.
Sure. We know, and the data shows that people who are housed and people who have the means to stay housed are much less likely to end up in the traditional public health facilities that San Francisco and other cities have. And to that end, I have been a consistent champion of affordable and low-income and extremely low-income housing. And that is precisely why I have been the proponent now of over $1.3 billion in general obligation bonds for affordable housing, including the bond, again, going back to the issue of forging consensus that Mayor Breed and I worked together on, and that I did all of the campaign work on to pass Proposition A on our March of 2024 ballot for an additional $300 million of affordable housing. I was an early proponent of the inclusionary housing laws requiring market rate developers to build a percentage of on-site affordable housing. And on this November's ballot, I am the author of the extremely low income set aside to keep people aging in place in their homes in San Francisco. There are any other number of things that we have been pursuing that I will continue to pursue as mayor to make sure that we meet the mandate of 46,000 affordable housing units by 2031. I was an early proponent of accessory dwelling units in San Francisco. That is now the law of the land that are affordable by design. And I am the only candidate for mayor that has said that if Costa-Hawkins is repealed, that I will extend rent control to the 40% of renters that do not enjoy rent control in San Francisco with the attendant eviction protections. And finally, we know through our surveys over many years that some 70% of the homeless population on our streets were previously housed in San Francisco. And I want to make sure that those people continue to be housed in San Francisco, which is why I've been a proponent and champion of the tenant's right to counsel. We know that when tenants are not represented in a court of law, they are much more likely to be evicted and not prevail in those proceedings. And that is precisely why I will continue to robustly fund tenants' right to counsel.
Thank you. And do you think that the 46,000 units of affordable housing is achievable?
I actually think, Ms. Barnes, that my ability and the reason I've been elected board president 3 times is because I am actually able to bring people together to forge consensus to actually get things done. I actually think that I am the most likely person to achieve that goal of all the candidates who are running for mayor.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Supervisor. Chair Tung.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Board President Peskin. Thank you for
Good morning,
joining
Chair
us.
Tung.
I have a very genuine question for you, and that's about ranked choice voting. You may have heard me ask the other candidates this. And I think you have occupied an unusual space because you have been running for office before and after ranked choice voting took effect in San Francisco. So what are your views on ranked choice voting? Do you favor ranked choice voting? Do you think it disenfranchises voters? And would you be open to ranked choice voting reform in the future?
So let me start by saying, Chair Tung, that I like any system that gets me elected, and I've been elected under both systems, so they both have worked for me. Having said that, I think that the literature around campaign reform, actually around getting more centrist conversations happening in a city or in a state or in our country are aided by ranked choice voting. I was actually listening to a fascinating piece on NPR just yesterday as I was shuttling from one campaign event to another about how ranked choice voting has actually lessened very far right-wing candidates in different areas of the country, because in primary elections, the most radical people turn out, and in runoff elections, in general elections, you have a much broader cross-section of the electorate. I also think that ranked choice voting changes the way people run and creates a more mature, cordial environment. And not only does it save money, but in virtually every case produces the same outcomes as would have happened in a runoff election. So I think that my response to your question is that ranked choice voting is here to stay, that it works, that it saves money, and that I would not at this time in San Francisco or in our country reform it. As a matter of fact, I think it is a practice that is spreading more widely.
Thank you. And how have you found it in your particular election, in your campaign?
I mean, a lot of people ask at events and ask on the street, people who say, hey, you're my first choice. What is the strategy? Who should I vote for second or third to ensure that you are mayor? And you want to know what I say? I say, vote for the person that you are second most supportive of. Don't think about it as a way to game the system. Don't, worry about whether or not, this candidate's votes disproportionately go to me or to go to somebody else. Vote in order of the people that you think would be the second best choice.
Thank you. That's a very thoughtful answer. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Member Coles.
Yeah. Hi, good morning, Board President Peskin. My question is about the value of San Francisco government delivering to the people, the residents of San Francisco. Especially since you noted you've been board president for 3 times. You'd be construed by many voters as an insider in City Hall. The budget in San Francisco has reached $16 billion. 10 years ago, it was about $8 billion. The population has largely been flat over that time period. So for voters who say that San Francisco government has not delivered value to residents that's twice as good while the budget has doubled, what would you say?
Well, I think there's a lot of technical answers we can, talk about relative to inflation and about the fact that the budget grew $1 billion because of actually non-taxpayer issues. Namely, most of that growth is actually one-time capital investment in our public utilities, which are paid for through revenue bonds. But all of that technical stuff notwithstanding, there is no question that San Francisco's government can work better. And a lot of that is really about who the chief executive officer, who the captain of the team is in a system of government that has a strong mayor system. I have been president of the legislative branch on 3 occasions. And yes, I do know a lot about the internal workings of government, particularly from the legislative side. But there is no question that a competent, mature mayor could make the workings of government much smoother. There is room for consolidations. There is room for efficiencies. And a lot of that is going to be the function of somebody who can bring disparate groups and interests together to get the job done. And I have, relative to the legislative arena, been able to bring people who are more moderate and more progressive than me together to pass pieces of legislation. Let me also just say, as the home of Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, that while there are many people in the United States Congress who are far to the right of her and a group of people in the Congress who are far to the left of her, Nancy Pelosi's job was to bring people together to pass Obamacare and do that kind of work. That is what the president of a legislative body does. And that is the experience that I have. And I think bringing that experience to the executive arena and bringing people together to forge consensus to actually solve problems and get things done is what I bring to this candidacy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Member Chandler.
Hello, Board President. As of today, I will have knocked on every single door in the Portola. And one of the things that I have regularly come up from voters there is the residents of the Portola do not feel they get the same coverage and service from SFPD as every other neighborhood because they're split between 2 police districts in Ingleside and Bayview. And that's become a priority for me. And so what I would, my question to you is, if you were to become mayor, how would you envision working with the new D9 supervisor to make sure the Portola gets the public safety coverage that they're entitled to?
Yeah, so Member Chandler, let me respond thusly. I have commented many, many times over the last 24 years that I am the luckiest supervisor. And I am the luckiest supervisor because I have Central Station. And I am the luckiest supervisor because Central Station has long-term officers who do real community policing. And as the world would have it, not through any great legislative actions by this supervisor, my supervisorial district and the Central Station precinct boundaries are almost coincident. They are almost the exact same. I have a little sliver of Northern Station, but for 24 years, my go-to has been the captain of Central Station, who covers North Beach and Chinatown and Nob Hill and the Upper Tenderloin. And I actually think in the redistricting that we do every 10 years for police department precincts, trying to align them better with supervisorial boundaries is a help to everybody. And that is the kind of work that I want to do relative to my relationship with 10 different, or if mayor, 11 different supervisors. I want to have a collaborative, mature, good working relationship, regardless of whether that individual's politics are more moderate or more progressive than me. I want to partner with supervisors. And I have to say that that's what I've done that's why I was elected president of the board twice unanimously by acclamation, because I have tried to help my colleagues be the best that they can be to achieve what they need to achieve for their constituents. I've never seen the city in terms of red states and blue states the way, Donald Trump has treated the United States of America. I want to collaborate to make people the best they can be to move San Francisco forward. And that's exactly what I've done as supervisor and exactly what I intend to do as mayor of the city and county of San Francisco, Mr. Chandler.
Great. Thank you very much, Supervisor. With that, we're going to open it up for your final 2-minute conclusion.
Okay. So let me thank you all for the process that you are going through, which is so fundamentally important and difficult. And I want to just say a little bit about the folks that have endorsed me and what that means to me and hopefully what it means to you and the voters of San Francisco. I am honored and delighted to have the support of SEIU Local 10-1, the largest union in San Francisco, the Hotel and Restaurant Workers Unite Here, Local 2, United Educators of San Francisco, National Union of Healthcare Workers, the American Federation of Teachers, several Teamster locals, the Harvey Milk LGBT Democratic Club, many district and neighborhood Democratic clubs, and very importantly to me, the endorsement of former Mayor Agnos, current Assembly Member Phil Ting, former Assembly Member Tom Amiano, former State Senator Mark Leno, the Lion of the California State Senate, John Burton, and many, many other people that I have served with, which I think speaks volumes to the fact that they know that I am independent, that I am not beholden to special interests, that my career and what I would bring as mayor is to work for everyday San Franciscans to make San Francisco safer, more affordable, and more livable for everyone. Thank you for your consideration and enjoy the rest of your interviews.
Great. Thank you, Supervisor. Have a good event.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for joining us.
Take good care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And just in case anyone who's on this Zoom is following along or hasn't seen the news in the last 10 minutes, President Biden has now endorsed Kamala Harris as the nominee. So lots of things happening this morning in addition to our mayoral interviews, but wanted to bring that update to everybody. Now back to the show, member co-chair Leoto Pierre.
So we'll get through the business we need to get through today, and then we'll let you all scatter to go figure out how we're going to win this November. But I'm going to go ahead and promote up our next interviewee, Supervisor Safai. And I believe hold on.
I think also, if I can say quickly at this historic moment, I wanted to thank my colleagues who joined on to the letter from 1 or 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
I know it reached a lot of our it reached the leadership, so it made an influence.
Okay. Asha Safai is here, and I'm going to be running the interview. We're 2 minutes behind.
Oh, he just logged off. Okay, well, I need him to come back.
There he is.
There you are. Okay. Supervisor Safai, you're back.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah, I think I said join as a panelist from somewhere, and then it sent me into another room, and I was like,
We have you where we need you now.
We got you now.
And with that, I will toss it back to the co-chairs to begin their interview with you.
Oh, great.
Welcome, Carrie Barnes, Vice Chair of the San Francisco Democratic Party and co-chair of the Endorsement Committee with Michaela Alioto Pierre. Secondly, Lanier Coles, Member Coles is going to be keeping track of time. So the format, we have arranged this to be to offer a 2-minute pitch from you. followed by 60 minutes of Q&A from the DCCC members here, and then a 2-minute wrap up. So with that, Supervisor Safai, you have the floor. Can start your 2-minute pitch.
Great. Appreciate the time today. Something told me last night, I don't know why, I said, I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to wake up. I'm at 11:20 and President Biden is going to jump out of the race. So I know no one's focused on me right now, but we got a lot of bigger things to think about in the country. And we all got to rally around Vice President Kamala Harris. I already sent out a tweet endorsing her. So I think we all need to jump into it immediately. So listen, I have been in public service in San Francisco for 24 years. I've worked under 2 mayors, Mayor Willie Brown, Mayor Gavin Newsom. I've learned from the best what it means to be a mayor in this city. I've been a deputy department head. I've worked for public works, cleaning and draining our streets. I've run for office 4 times in this city. I know what it takes to win a mayor's race and win a campaign. I've run my own small business. I've been active in the Democratic Party from day one, from the Young Democrats all the way to today. I've helped this whole host of women, people of color, a whole host of individuals get elected into office and understand that that's an important part of being mayor as well. It's not just about running the city, but it's about being actively engaged and involved. I've been on the board for the last 7.5 years. I've worked with organized labor. I come from the labor movement. I would be the first mayor in 50 years to be from the labor movement. And Kevin Shelley's father, Mayor Shelley, was the last one. And what that means in a city right now that is becoming economically polarized, of the haves and the have-nots, we need someone that understands how to advocate for working families, for middle-class families, and be that voice. And no one's been a stronger advocate and voice for those families than I have. We have to keep San Francisco as a city for all San Franciscans to thrive. And that's what I've dedicated myself to. That level of experience, the work that I've done, fighting for working and middle-class families, that's what separates me from the pack. And I would love to have your endorsement.
Thank you. I'll start with the first question. You have mentioned, Supervisor, that if elected, you would reform the city's approach to the federally mandated point-in-time count.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we want to hear a little bit more about that. Can you describe what you would change and how that would benefit San Francisco?
Yeah, so I ran a ballot measure. I believe all of you voted on it because almost 70% of voters did, to bring oversight and accountability to the Department of Homeless Supportive Housing, department that started out in 2016 at around 2015 at around $100 million has grown to over $700 million today. I brought mandatory audits to that program, and a major piece of that work was to bring metrics and accountability. So as part of the point in time count for federally mandated funding, we only do that every 2 years. Under my administration, reconstituting the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services and working with Project Homeless Connect, neighborhood leaders, and other organizations, we would be actively engaged in counting on a more consistent basis. 1, to understand the true magnitude of what we're dealing with, but 2, to really and truly measure our success. We don't know how many shelter beds we need to stand up until we have an accurate count. And having an accurate count really allows us to gauge the progress that we've made. One of the things we did 1.5 years ago is we asked the department to look at its vacancy rate in permanent supportive housing. As we've done that, that vacancy rate has come down. As we've posted that, as we've measured that, the same would be true. We can't truly engage on the number of shelter beds we need unless we really know how many are there. So I would do it with neighborhood services. I would do it with Project Homeless Connect, and I would do it with Department of Emergency Management, actively engaging and going out and measuring street homelessness aggressively.
Okay, thank you. Co-chair Michaela.
Thank you, Supervisor. I like that you add DEM into that calculation as well. I don't think we usually hear the Department of Emergency Management brought into that loop. So my question really, it really more came from one of the largest issues in the disabled community, big issue for SEIU, is in-home attendant care services. And, honestly, something that is close to my heart because I don't think we talk about it enough. I'd like to know if you've given it any thought in a city like San Francisco, where we do have people with, with disabilities, with special needs, and we have an aging population. How would would in-home attendant care services be something that you would be interested in helping us implement at a bigger reach? Or are there other ways to deal with aging in place?
So thank you for that question. So one of the first things we did when I was elected to the board, having come working with UHW, working with SEIU in-home healthcare workers as 2015, we, at the end of the day, engaged with them and saw an opportunity to set a record-setting, a precedent-setting level of pay for those in-home healthcare workers because we saw a major decline, Michaela, as minimum wage was pacing with the pay of in-home healthcare workers. So we needed to make sure that in-home healthcare workers were being paid more than minimum wage. Why does someone want to take care of a loved one or disabled if they can go to Starbucks, if they can go to McDonald's, they can go somewhere else, get healthcare benefits, get the same level of pay? So we set a precedent-setting level of outpacing that. It's called the Minimum Compensation Ordinance. I know you're familiar with that. So we set that at a high level, highest level in the state of California. We have, I think, around 19,000 in-home healthcare workers. And like you, it's very near and dear to my heart. I have an 83-year-old mother that lives with us. She's still independent and able to take care of herself. But I know she's already told us she doesn't want to go into assisted living. She doesn't want to go into a home. She wants to be able to age in place. And as someone that represents the Excelsior Outer Mission, oh my, I have the highest concentration of individuals aging in place, those and also individuals with disabilities. So we have to 100% give the resources to that level of workers. We have to support it and we have to expand it because many people want to ensure that they can age in place with dignity.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Thank you. Chair Tung.
Good morning, Supervisor Safai. Nice to see you. I'm asking the same question of all of our mayoral candidates today, and that has to do with ranked choice voting. So I'd like to know from your perspective what you think of ranked choice voting. Is it beneficial or does it have a tendency to disenfranchise people? And would you be supportive of ranked choice voting changes on a ballot measure in the future?
You know, it's interesting because when I ran, when I was on Gavin Newsom's campaign, there were multiple candidates in the race. And it ended up being a winner take all. And the problem is when you have your November elections, one of the reasons why I supported moving the election for mayor from 2023 to 2024, we now are anticipating for the first time in the city's history, mayoral election having anywhere between 75 to 80% voter turnout in the most important election at the local level. And I fundamentally believe that was the right decision. If you move away and go back to a primary and or runoff situation, when Gavin was elected, we had, I think it was around 60 something percent voter turnout in the first round. But in December, when a lot of people don't even realize there's election, you have a significant drop off. So there's things about ranked choice voting that I think could be adjusted. And there's absolutely more that we could do, particularly as a Democratic Party, to educate people more about it. But going back to a winner take all system, we'd have to really look at, are you doing a primary in, I don't know, right now, like August, and then having that runoff in November. So November still remains the most important election. And then I know that the influence of money becomes a much more important aspect in a winner take all system. So I think we'd have to seriously consider that. It's been frustrating to me. The first time I won, I had to wait 2.5 weeks to find out if I had actually won the race because there was so much counting. There were so many algorithms that they had to go through. So I can definitely see the argument on both sides. But I think it's been okay for San Francisco so far. I don't think we've had a situation where anyone was surprised.
What do you tell your supporters when they ask you about how they should fill out their ballot?
I think we've made it a little more confusing by saying you get 10 choices. I always tell people there's 3 people that you can choose. Pick your top 3. Obviously, put me number 1, and if there's 1 or 2 more that you like, put them down. So that's how I explain it.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Member Chandler.
Hello, Supervisor. I'm going to ask you the same question I just asked President Peskin, which is, as of today, I will have knocked on every voter's door in Portola, and one of the main issues I hear from them is that they do not feel they get the same coverage from the SFPD with patrols because they're split between 2 different police stations and districts. And that's a high priority for me, having heard that direct feedback from neighbors there. So my question is, how do you envision making sure Portola gets the public safety resources they deserve? And as mayor, how would you work with the future D9 supervisor to make sure that happens?
So we're actually going through the redistricting process right now with the SFPD. And SFPD is looking at calls for service. It's looking at issues exactly like you described. And I brought up a similar situation in District 11. I mean, I have a small part of the Portola now that was put into District 11. The remainder is, I think, in D9. The vast majority and a tiny bit is in D10. And so that's frustrating when you have a neighborhood that feels like it's a little bit of a no man's land. We have a bit of that in the Outer Mission, where technically it's in the Taravel. It's no longer in the Ingleside, and oftentimes it's confusing even for me as a supervisor. So one of the ways that we dealt with that, Trevor, and if you become the District 9 supervisor, you should do this. We created, and as mayor, I will work with you on this. We created a district liaison, public safety district liaison for every supervisorial district. So it wasn't necessarily incumbent upon the residents and the supervisor and others. We have a dedicated person that works with both police stations in D11, and they are 100% focused on public safety and quality of life issues. And it has been absolutely transformational. It kind of goes back to my point in time question about reconstituting the Office of Neighborhood Services. That is like 50% of a neighborhood services liaison's job if you were to reconstitute that office. But short of that, having someone dedicated, and that actually they sit in the police department's budget and office, but they are dedicated 100% to District 11. So that's what you have my commitment to work with you on that as mayor and ensuring that your entire district has 100% focus from the SFPD.
Wonderful. Emron?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to you, Supervisor Safai. In San Francisco, we're all looking for solutions to homelessness, and it's a number that's actually increasing, the homeless count. You've been one of the biggest advocates of the Homeward Bound program. Do you believe that this is a permanent solution to the homelessness situation in San Francisco? And how do you respond to critics calling this Greyhound therapy?
I'm glad you brought that up because I wasn't able to really emphasize that earlier. But that program started, Emron, under Mayor Gavin Newsom in 2004. And for 15 years, over 13,000 people were served with that program. And it's fundamentally, I think, at its core, about reunifying people with their loved ones, families, and friends. 2/3 of the people that took advantage of that program, and it's voluntary, never came back to San Francisco. So that says something. That says something about the effectiveness of the program. Unfortunately, Mayor Breed buried it in the bureaucracy. She said that, we weren't doing it during COVID. But if you look at the amount of time that she's in office and her department has been in office, it has been a steady decline of not utilizing that program. So I put forward legislation that passed to make it a permanent program and to expand it to include shelters and permanent supportive housing. We got to get those numbers back up to over 1,000 a year. And part of the reason why it declined is because our officers are no longer out on the beat doing foot patrols. That's another piece of my strategy, getting officers out on the beat. They're able to offer this program with Department of Emergency Management, with other individuals that are out there engaging with folks on the street and in shelters and in permanent supportive housing. So I don't think of it as Greyhound therapy. I think of it as family therapy, to be honest with you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Michael Nguyen, Member Nguyen.
Hi, thank you. Thank you,
I don't
Madam
see
Co-Chair.
people on the screen. Oh, okay, I got it. Oh, hey, Michael.
Hi.
Now I can see you.
Good morning, Supervisor Safai. My question is, I think, looking at the questionnaire around inclusivity, which mentions like the policies that support LGBTQIA plus, Black, Latino, Asian, disabled communities and women. I'm curious more about LGBTQ folks and API folks, especially as a District 11 supervisor. How have you uplifted those communities? How will you continue to uplift and support those communities to be more engaged in our government?
Thank you, Michael. So I have 100% gone out of my way to always have someone from the LGBTQ plus community represented on my staff my entire time in office. As the rules chair and rules committee member, constantly engaged in ensuring that we have that community represented aggressively in our boards and commissions, and also running for office. One of my strongest supporters is Al Perez, as you know. He's on a commission. We've engaged with him on a significant amount of work all over San Francisco, uplifting the AAPI community along with the LGBT community. And I could keep going. So as mayor, there'll be an integral part of my administration, as I have always had. I'll have key staff members and advisors as part of my team, department heads, as well as commissioners and people running for office.
Wonderful. You can make your concluding remarks now. Thank you.
I mean, I appreciate you guys taking the time. I know every single one of you campaigned really hard to be on this body. And I appreciate the work you're doing here as local activists for the Democratic Party. I mean, I can't say it. I mean, everyone always says this election is the most important, but this election really is the most important we've seen in forever. And, you know, our current mayor, I worked with her in the beginning. I've engaged with her. I've consistently engaged with her. She's had 6.5 years to steer the course. I think the city is headed in the wrong direction. We need new leadership. We have the resources. We have almost a $16 billion budget. We need new leadership. We need someone that can manage the departments better, and we need better accountability. And when you look at my track record of bringing people together, when you look at my ability to get consensus votes, whether it was a citywide project labor agreement, whether it was the Student Success Fund, who I worked on with Supervisor Hillary Ronan, Myrna Melgar, whether it was more recently creating a pension fund investment vehicle to spur development in our city and supporting housing and transportation issues. I've been 100% about bringing people to the table and building consensus. And I think that's what's been missing. You need a mayor that can work with the board, engage with the board, and you need a mayor that's going to be able to get the city back on track and engage and work with the Democratic Party. So you have my commitment to do that. And I appreciate all the hard work you all have put in to being a part of the change that every single voter that I have talked to wants in San Francisco. They want change in leadership at the top. And I appreciate you all being a part of that change at the Democratic Party level. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Safai.
Have a great day. Go Kamala.
Thanks, Sasha.
Thanks.
And thanks for accommodating us. We know you had a busy schedule today,
No,
so thanks for making it.
I'm literally sitting over here in the East Bay, dropping my daughter off for camp. So I'm
okay, great, perfect.
my son's like, "Daddy, why'd you bring that chair with you?" And I was like, "I don't care if people look at me and think I look like an idiot sitting in the park in a chair, but I have an interview to do, and I got to give my baby girl a kiss goodbye before she's gone for 2 weeks." So all of you that have kids know what it's like running for office and being a parent.
I'm down the street from camp right now.
There you go.
Yeah.
Have a great one. Nice
Thank
to
you,
see
guys.
ya.
All right. Okay. Bye-bye.
So Bobak, where are we at on things? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Well, then that wouldn't have been helpful, me saying things. We are in our last interview of the day. Mr. Shariati, who I've just now promoted as panelist, when he gets up here and gets pinned to the main screen, you can begin your interview with him. And then after that, you can have any closing remarks, logistical remarks, remind people about showing up on Wednesday for the vote, and then you can adjourn this meeting.
Wonderful. Thank
With
you.
that, your last interviewee.
Hello, welcome, Sharam.
Hello, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Vice Chair Carrie Barnes, the San Francisco Democratic Party, and co-chair of the Endorsements Committee with Michaela Alioto up here. And Linear Member Coles will be helping us stay on track. It's our last interview after a 2-day journey that we've been spending with candidates. So thank you. So here's how we're going to run it. We're going to invite you to do a 2-minute pitch. Tell us why you're running, followed by a 16-minute Q&A, and then with questions from our members here, and then a 2-minute wrap up. So with that, I'd love to invite you to do your 2-minute pitch.
Yes, so my name is Sharam Shariati. I am born and raised in California. I grew up in Sacramento and then went to college at Cal Poly. I'm one of the only candidates with 3 college degrees. I have a bachelor's in civil engineering, a master's in civil and environmental engineering, as well as an MBA. I also have a real estate license, and I help with the affordable housing program in San Francisco for the last 8 years. And I've been a transportation engineer with the MTA for the last 10 years. And going to refer a little bit to Keith, who spoke earlier. I got the chance to hear him for the first time. My background is kind of similar with him, where I was a whistleblower. I found corruption within the MTA and the MOHCD, and I was penalized for reporting people, which is not fair for the person that is trying to do good by the city and by the residents of San Francisco. And so that kind of started my journey of being mayor, is to cut out all the corruption, make sure that there's accountability, and to bring common sense back to the residents of San Francisco, because I've had the fortunate luxury of living in different countries and cities and states around the US and the world. And they happen to just be conservative states. And so I've had the best of both worlds, where I can take bits and pieces of the Republican and the Democrat side, where most people are in the middle. And we're forced now to choose between 2 extremes in our elections, when most people fall in between. So I think I represent the best candidate of bringing both sides together and having solutions that make everyone happy, or the majority happy.
Wonderful, thank you. I'll start with the first question. So as a leader of the San Francisco Democratic Party, we of course are focused on voter turnout, voter registration, especially in light of shifting presidential nominee news, right? It's really important to turn out the vote, make every vote count. What intrigued me about your questionnaire is opening the tent a little wider and inviting residents with green cards to vote in local elections. And you mentioned it as your first agenda if elected mayor. So I'd like to hear a little bit more from you about how you wanted to change the registration process.
Yes, so I have many friends that are international, and as I've been campaigning, especially in the tech industry, I meet with people and they say, I love your ideas, but I can't vote for you. I'm not a citizen. And so we pride ourselves as a sanctuary city, as mentioned previously from other candidates. But then why don't we actually take the extra mile and actually give these people a voice in local matters? I have friends that pay more in taxes than myself. They work in the tech industry. They're making hundreds of thousands more than me, but they don't have a say in what happens in local politics. We already have policies in place in San Francisco, where if you're an immigrant and you have a child in the school district, you can vote locally on the school related items. But why don't we have such a thing for the local elections? And so I think it's just part of the whole equity, inclusion, diversity part of the Democratic Party that we should be addressing.
Wonderful, thank you. Co-chair Michaela.
Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Shariati. Nice to have you. I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit, after COVID, we had a lot of our small businesses really, really struggled. And a lot of our restaurants and the ability to get workers into some of our small businesses has made things difficult. Do you have any ideas or thoughts on how to strengthen our neighborhood commercial districts, in particular, our small businesses more in general?
Yeah, so I've spoken to business owners. They all have very similar things. So going back, actually, want to give a little bit of story of the MTA. As a transportation engineer, we had on the media that the Centerway bike lane on Valencia was disrupting businesses. I was on an interview with San Francisco Beat 2 months ago that said that it was not the cause of the businesses going out of business, that it was economic reasons of San Francisco. And when I talked to the businesses, that was incorrect. And then the city actually did, a month later after my interview, confirm that it was not the center bike lane. So the issues I've encountered with the business owners is, one is the $950 misdemeanor for theft. There is consistency of break-ins, people robbing, theft, property damage. And so also when they report the crimes, when they report the damages to their insurance companies, the premiums rise, and then they don't report them anymore because the police are not showing up and because their insurance premiums are going up. Then they're also telling me that their leases are going up in price and that the landlords are not budging or negotiating on what they're asking for. And so what happens is, instead of fighting for them, because they've already tried to fight for a lesser value, they just pick up and move to a different city or a different state. And so I want to be in those conversations with the landlords and say, why are you not negotiating? Because we all know 80,000 people left San Francisco since COVID. And we had thousands of tech layoffs in the last couple of years. So the high earner people are leaving San Francisco, and that's having a toll on our economics. And then another thing I want to bring up too, to also help with the homeless and incarcerated people, is if you're a small business and you want a tax break, you hire and train someone that was formerly incarcerated or someone that was homeless. And so that will help close the loop of homelessness, because people won't be back on the streets if they have a stable job, and then businesses will also get a tax break. And then I also work with the landlords to figure out if there's a tax break I can give them to incentivize them to lower the rents.
Thank you for that response.
Okay, Michael Nguyen, member Nguyen's question.
Thanks, Co-Chair Barnes. Good afternoon, almost good afternoon, Mr. Chariati. Thanks for joining us. My question is around public safety and looking at your endorsement in your questionnaire. I'm sorry that you were a victim of hate crime, but I'm curious around, what is your stance on public safety? How do we improve it? How do we improve safety for everyone on our streets? Knowing that we have limited resources, knowing that we have a shortage of police staffing, would you support community policing? What is your thoughts?
So I support the walking the beat, police, people walking the streets of San Francisco or even biking on the streets of San Francisco to improve safety. And also Vision Zero. We haven't achieved Vision Zero because of safety and enforcement. Over the last 10 years, we had a 97% reduction in mobile trafficking, so anything that was moving violations. And that's contributed to our increase in fatalities of San Francisco, because people feel like they can just do whatever they want without any consequences. And that's what we're seeing with the theft, with the 950, that there's just like a Wild West mentality in San Francisco where the police are not going to respond. However, it is kind of interesting because I was debating at Dolores Park. We have a debate every Saturday from 1 to 3 with other candidates that don't get opportunities, like the so-called top 5. And it just happened to be the day of the downhill skating bomb event. We saw more police on that day than any day I've seen since APEC or Dreamforce or some of these conferences. So it's kind of weird. Everyone comments like, where did all these police come from? And why are they all here for this skateboarding event that could be turned into some kind of event to promote skateboarding and to be a safe environment, when instead they're putting up barricades and trying to cause conflict between skateboarders and the public, when we can embrace this and make this a unique San Francisco tradition. And while we have all this police at this one location, there could be crimes happening in other parts of the city, and all of our resources are in one location. And so I want to make sure that We have people walking the beat that we're not allocating police resources to something that doesn't need to be needed, and we embrace certain events, make them safer. And then I want to also build infrastructure to improve safety. So most of us have been to a college campus and we see those emergency blue poles. If we scatter those throughout the city, that would enhance safety in the city, and that would help with response times because people can click on the button, talk to an operator, and a GPS signal will be sent to the person where the approximate location.
Thank you. Okay, we can move to the next question. Emron.
Thank you, Co-Chair Barnes. How you doing? Good afternoon, sir. So I just want, you mentioned a little bit in your response now about the top 5 in the mayoral candidate race. We're about a little over 100 days out until election day. How do you and your campaign plan to catapult yourself into the top 5 and make it and become the next mayor of San Francisco?
Yeah, that's a great question. So people have questioned me, like, are you still running? I don't see your name in the media. And I started, as I've been campaigning, realized that it's about power and money. That's what gets you in the media. It took me 7 months to get my first interview. I've contacted over 50 different journalists, reporters. I contacted Chronicle, Gates, all these independent people, and no one would respond. So I realized that our democratic process is not as democratic as people think, that the media is also involved and can influence a person's decision because the people don't have the time and resources to research all 13 candidates. And we actually do have 2 other women running for mayor, Ellen Lee and Serena Hughes. Serena is a writing candidate. But many people don't know about this because the media doesn't give us attention. And so I also looked at the polls. My name is not on the polls. So if you look at the polls and fill them out, you will notice that all 13 candidates, people on the ballot are not on there, and then let alone the people that are writing candidates. So I don't know if I'll ever be considered a top 5. And then when I ask for the debates to participate, the qualifications that I get is you have to be a former politician or a current politician, and you had to raise a certain amount of money from a certain amount of people. So there's already these gatekeepers that are setting the tone for who they want to endorse without saying it directly.
Thank you. Do we have time for one more question, Lanier? Okay, so we are curious, I am curious in particular about ranked choice voting. Are you familiar with it? What are your thoughts on it? And are you recommending it to voters that you're speaking with in the park and otherwise?
Yes, I truly endorse ranked choicing because that's the only reason why I'm running. If we didn't have ranked choicing, I know for a fact I wouldn't have any chance whatsoever because, as was mentioned earlier, the media is only promoting 5 people. And many people don't know there's 13 other candidates. The other thing is people don't know how the ranked choice system works. And so there needs to be education on that. We thought there was 3, now there's 10 apparently. So why isn't this information going out? Sorry, I'm not used to talking this much. And so I lost my voice last week. And so I'm trying yeah.
Okay, no worries.
But yeah, the ranked choicing, I agree wholeheartedly because it's giving me the opportunity that I wouldn't have otherwise.
Okay. Coles, Member Coles, you want to ask the last question?
Yeah. Hi, good, I guess it's almost good afternoon. My question is about the value of city government for the residents of San Francisco. The budget has doubled in the last 10 years, but the population has actually slightly declined. So for voters who say that San Francisco is not delivering on its value, what would you say and what would you do differently?
Yeah, so I agree with that wholeheartedly that they haven't delivered. Our budget has doubled. And I have proof of that. Hold on, let me get a...
Sure, take your time.
So for example, as mentioned previously, I'm an advocate of homeownership through the first-time homebuyer program, through the city's affordable housing program. Many people don't know that in the city of San Francisco, if you make $200,000 or less, the government will give you up to $500,000 to buy a home. This program has been in place for 60 plus years. It's been adjusted for cost of inflation and cost of living. But why are people born and raised in San Francisco don't know about this program? We always talk about rent control. But I took advantage of this program myself and bought my 2-bed, 2-bath condo for $300,000 8 years ago. And the government gave me $45,000 for the down payment. My mortgage in HOA is less than rent. So I want to promote this program and allocate more budget to this, because right now for the down payment assistance loan program, the city sets aside $18 million for that program. But for the homeless, we set $713 million for 8,000 people. So our resources are not allocated to the correct places. Also, I'm the only one that wants to do a docuseries about San Francisco policies and politics. And what I mean by that is I want to contact Netflix and have a documentary where myself, every elected and appointed official, has to be on camera for 4 years. And we're going to have a follow-up episode. Each episode will be about a different topic: homeless, drugs, permits, building, you name it, you will have it. And then we'll have follow-up episodes. By having this in place, we'll eliminate corruption, because if you have something to hide, you're going to quit, because we're going to catch it. And this will figure out where the money is going. As a transportation engineer with the MTA, people in my office, we still don't understand why it takes 6 months for us to transfer money from the MTA to the public works. So, but I can Venmo you, I can Zelle you back and forth billions of times within 6 months. So where's the money going? That's a great question. And I know for a fact, I've seen it with the MTA, I've seen it with the mayor of housing, that they've not properly allocated the money to the proper resources to solve the problems.
Oh, thank you. I was actually really interested about your docuseries to increase accountability. So thank you for answering that question in advance. But I think with that, we can move to, you can offer your 2-minute concluding statements if you're able. I don't know if you need some more water, how are you doing?
No, now that the rush is a little bit gone,
Okay.
it's taken effect. So my concluding actually, hold on. Sorry about that. So my conclusion is, if you want to endorse somebody, endorse someone that the majority of the people are going to follow and listen and believe in. The definition of insanity is voting for the same thing, expecting different results. And that's what's happening right now. As mentioned earlier, the top 5 candidates self-proclaimed, because again, my name's not on the polls, Keith's name's not on the polls, I've checked. And so we need equal standing to get people educated about who's running so they can make a fair decision. And so if you want to endorse someone that is all about equality, about the democratic foundation that it's built upon, then I hope you consider me as your first choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time today. Okay,
Thank you so much for coming. It's nice to hear from you today.
I'm going to pass the baton. Oh, sorry. Thank you. I'm going to pass the baton to my co-chair, Michaela, but just wanted to do a quick thank you for everyone's time for this weekend. I know it was a lot of hours, a lot of energy, and I'm really proud of the work that we did and running a fair and extensive process. So thank you. And with that, Michaela.
Again, thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Lanier, for your help with timing, and Cedric for yours, and Bobak for the Herculean baptism by water, baptism by fire, pulling all this together. And obviously to Chair Tung. Just a reminder that the voting will be in our regularly scheduled DCCC meeting next week on the 24th at 6:30. And with that, we are adjourning the interviews for the 2024 DCCC supervisorial and mayoral endorsement process. Thanks so much for attending.
Great work. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to throw a few things in the chat real quick before we close. The meeting notice for the Wednesday meeting is oh, that's not good. I need to change the URL of this. Well, the meeting notice will be updated and circulated today because I have to publish a 72-hour notice. If people want to see the link for the endorsements process for this round, you can click there, as well as all the remaining candidates for August. You can see the timeline for those there. And then again, one more time, I strongly encourage folks to read the questionnaires, which I just posted in the chat. And we look forward to seeing as many of you as we can on Wednesday. And go ahead, Lanier.
Before you end, before Nancy and Babak sign off, Michaela, I don't know if you want to stay, but
no, Lanier, this is a recorded meeting. Whatever you want to talk about,
okay.
I want to do it somewhere else.
Okay.
Yeah. So the last thing I'll say is that we look forward to seeing folks on Wednesday for the July 24th meeting, and that if you would like to submit public comment in writing, you can do that by emailing info@sfdems.org, and we'll see you then.
Great. Thanks so much, Babak.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.